All right. So it's the morning of the race. The inside of this damn crate is dark and hot. The roar of the various engines and other propulsion systems rev from your left and right. You look over and both of Lindy's hands are white-knuckled, gripping the steering wheel. You can't see her face behind the silly-looking mongoose mask, but you can tell that she's grinning ear to ear. You, on the other hand, are just trying to piece together how you got yourselves here into this mess. Yesterday, Lindy woke you guys up early, wrenching on some huge harpoon gun that she was trying to attach to the front of the cart. Yeah, I'm gonna have to work on that sound system. There we go. And a big rotating steel plate shield on top that was angled upward. She showed you how the plate shield could be rotated to deflect incoming projectiles, almost like a defensive turret. The other carts will do everything that they can knock us out. Oh, the other carts will do everything they can to knock us out of this race, she said. We can't just be faster than them. We have to be a whole lot more badass, too. And that's why I painted these blue flames on the side. Later in the day, she fitted you both for your emergency harnesses. She says, if you get thrown from the car, yank this cord. And she points to a small braided rope that's hanging off the backpack-like device. You both kind of instinctively reach for it, but she barks, hands off. Don't do it now. If you yank that cord, or if we get hit hard like in a crash, it'll inflate a big bubble around you so that you can land safely. I mean, you'll bounce a little while, maybe for a long while, and you might even roll out into the desert for a bit, but you'll be alive, and that's what counts. After, she raised the garage doors and showed you the cart, finally in full daylight view. It's sleek, it's low to the ground, looks to be built for speed, even with all the cold blue steel plating. Lindy shows you the finer points of this badass machine. She says, this is where I'll be, and points to where the driver's seat area is. She says, I'll take care of the speed, and I'll do my best to avoid crashing us into shit, but I'm going to need you guys, or I'm going to be focused on the track, though, so I'm going to need you guys' help to defend us from boarders and maybe help knock out the other racers. The rotating shield turret is mounted in the center on top, with a seat for the operator to strap themselves into. The harpoon gun is rigged to a button inside the cab. She says, we've got 2 harpoons for that thing, and that's it, so we got to make them count. The harpoons should be able to spear through just about any cart out there, but we'll be chained to them until we press this button here. She points to another one on the dash, which will disconnect the chain. We don't want to just shoot the cart and then drop the chain, though, because that won't really slow them down very much. They'd just be dragging a chain behind them. So we want to wrap them around something else if possible, or another rock or a car or whatever. And finally, there's this. She points to the last button on the dashboard. This one's a bright red. She says, don't hit this one until it's time. That's our ace in the hole. For the first 5 miles or so of the track, we're just going to be winding through a minefield of rocks and pillars, but the last mile, though, it's just flat deadpan desert. She says we can go balls out once we get there, so I'll yell it out, and then it's time for ludicrous speed. And you hold on tight and you hit that button, and we'll go blazing past any carts that are left. We've got to be ready to hit the brakes, though, because at the end of that track, it goes right off a cliff at the very edge of the Whisper, so we can't just burn all the way through or we'll go flying. And she says, extra finally, your masks. I've got just about every animal you can think of, so what do you guys want to be?
I'm
gonna be a monkey.
Oh my god. I guess a wolf.
There we go.
All right. I gotta switch this screen. There we go. Cool. She says, okay, so who's going to take the turret and who's going to be taking the cab? She says, you guys can get up and switch around, you know, you're going to end up having to move a lot probably while we're racing anyway, but, I mean, at least for starters, who wants to be where?
I always suck at driving, so...
Well, she's going to be driving. She's going to be taking care of the speed and all the driving. Just one of you is going to be in the... You're both going to be able to... so that the car has essentially a windshield, but it's not enclosed. So even though it's a cab, it's really just a seat with a windshield in front of it. So whoever's sitting next to Lindy in the cab is still able to get up and, you know, fire a bow or you know, shoot or whatever. And then, you know, the person that's blocking or using the rotating shield will be up top. But you guys can still switch around or move around the car and stuff like that.
Alright, then I'll start up top. What are you thinking? You want to start in the cab?
Sure.
Alright.
Okay. Alright, so we are about to switch over to the race, and I'll explain how that works here in a second, but did you have any questions for her or anything before you guys head to the track?
I don't think so.
Alright. I can act for some of this stuff to do it automatically. So here you are, strapped into a cart inside a big metal crate, and your opponents are lined up on your left and right, hidden in similar crates to keep prying eyes from seeing what kinds of weapons or defenses they've built. You can see Lindy's foot tapping impatiently under the dash, causing this whole small cart to shake. Even above the roar of the carts, you can hear the crowd, though. This is the autumn final, and before you climbed into the crate, you belted yourself into your seats. You saw hordes of people of all kinds gathered around to watch the start of this race. You hear Lindy shout over the din, "About to blow the doors off this biddy, so if you got any last preparations, you better do them now." Any spells or anything you guys want to put up?
I just need. Let me see. Nope. Could I have my shield up when I'm operating the stuff on the top?
The shield, the turret is going to be a higher AC anyways. So
Yeah, well, never
mechanically,
mind.
I didn't explain that for you too. So the big turret shield adds 5 to the AC of the cart, or for you because you're in the cart, or you're behind that shield basically. But it can only face one direction at a time, and whatever direction you face, it's so heavy that it's going to tilt the car that direction. So if you turn it to the left, the car is going to slowly be veering to the left, and Lindy won't be able to correct for that. Which means that if there's something like a pillar, ahead of you, if you're just going straight and you point it to the front, you'll be fine. You just go straight. But if you turn to the left for too long, she's going to end up crashing into something. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, every round you have it turned, you're forcing the car to go 5 feet that direction while still moving straight ahead. Just slowly veering one way or the other. So be mindful of that as you're going. There will be, I'll point it out to you basically when it's going to be important. Otherwise, you can mostly take a straightaway, or as if it was. And then the harpoon, there's 2 big spheres essentially in it with barbed tips that you could use to shoot another cart and yank it off. But if you just shoot it and you miss, it's not going to do anything. Or if you shoot it and it hits, but you just drop the chain, it's not going to do anything. You kind of have to use it tactically in the way of kind of wrapping it around something or whatever. All right. Whoops. So you guys are sitting in the cart just waiting for this to go, and you hear a loud horn booming coming from the inside, from the outside rather, somewhere outside the cart. And Lindy kicks the engine into gear even before the crate door drops. Oh, whoops. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get used to this new audio system. There we go. And suddenly you're blinded by the sun pouring into the crate in which your cart was hiding. And even as your eyes adjust, you can't really see much, but you do hear a lot. You hear engines roaring ever louder now. You hear a dust storm whipping up around the cart line where everybody's lined up there. And you start to see bright flashes of light moving between different carts as you bolt out into the crate and into this sandstorm that's building up. Before you really fully see what's happening, though, the 3 of you are deafened by an explosion about 20 meters to your left, and after that explosion you hear another horn. As the first of your... Yeah, you should. That's separate. That's not from the regular sound effects.
Okay, I was going to say I heard that horn.
As the first of your opponents is removed from the race, your neck whips back as Lindy slams down the accelerator. You see 2 glowing crystalline missiles fly overhead, narrowly missing your cart. Lindy shifts gears and yanks the wheel just in time to avoid a javelin thrown by another cart to your left, a halfling in a goblin mask. Another burst of speed as Lindy pushes your cart faster, and you're starting to pull away from the pack as she deftly steers between some of these dense orange-red stone pillars, hearing 4 more horns echo from the pylons. Apparently some of your competitors didn't quite make the turn. They were having to kind of start to dive in between these pillars, and it sounds like they've crashed into them. Without turning her head in the slightest, eyes unblinking, focused hard on the track, Lindy shouts, "Every time we hear that, it means we've knocked one of them out. I count 5 down so far, so we're looking good." She says, uh-oh. Well, there she is. As Lindy deftly swings between the stone pillars, you catch glimpses of the chrome bolt she described. She'd just given you this description earlier. The Viper's cart is 100 or so yards ahead, dancing between the rocks. Lindy shouts, "I'll catch up, just keeps everyone else off our tail." The Viper's cart is a floating chrome canoe, essentially. No wheels, it just kind of floats above the ground a few feet. And you're seeing that kind of darting back and forth between these pillars. No sooner has she said that, though, than you see a large vehicle approaching from the dust clouds behind you. It looks a bit like a Thrigan longship with a firing booster rocket. And you see 3 riders wearing bear masks. One's hidden behind a wooden wheel, one's manning some kind of a cannon, and one swings a grappling hook and circles over its head like he's about to throw it at your car and attempt to board. Roll initiative.
Alright. 1 second here, G. I'm checking on dinner.
Make sure it's done. It might need to go back in for another 20 minutes.
You might need it. You want to come check though, just to be double check?
Yeah.
I think it does need a little bit longer though. What temperature? Okay. Where's Tiki? All right. So is this going to be like Twisted Metal Tip?
A little bit.
Just Metal Tip?
Just metal tip.
Nathan said that like 4 times, 3 or 4 times, 2. I think I was like, tip?
Nathan, I thought it was Jake that said that.
I think it was Nathan, if I remember right. It could have been Jake,
I
though.
was thinking it was Jake, but yeah.
Maybe it was.
Okay.
Becky's initiative roll is 22, so she'll be going first, but we still need one from Ketis.
Assuming so.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
That's about right. All right, so here's how we're going to be handling this. Basically, you're going to be using that same initiative roll throughout the whole race, and I'm just going to be dropping other carts and their riders in and out of the combat tracker until you guys get to the finish line. So that rotating shield, keep that in mind. It adds 5 to the cart's AC for whatever direction you're pointing it. So basically, if you're able to turn it in the direction of something being shot at you, if your turn comes in place, basically. I'm not too. Some of it will be happening at the same time, essentially. So there will be situations where you have time to prepare, like this, for example. Although you guys saw the cart coming, so you would have time to have turned it to prevent something if you wanted to. So did you hear how you saw this car? What's happening? You want me to repeat that?
Please.
So, all right.
Just the end part.
Yeah. As soon as you kind of got into these rocky areas, you saw the Viper's cart far ahead, and she's 100 yards ahead. You no concern there. But coming in behind you, you saw what looks kind of like a longship, like what a Viking longship looks like.
Yeah, I think so.
So a boat that looks like a Thrigan longship, basically, except with wheels in the bottom and a fiery booster that's rocketing it forward, with 3 riders on it that are wearing bear masks. One of them is behind a wooden wheel, like a ship's wheel would be, and one is spanning some kind of a cannon that is slowly rotating your direction, but not there yet, and one that is swinging a grappling hook over his head, and it looks like he's about to throw it to your car and attempt to board.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Then
they're straight behind you. They're like directly behind you.
Okay.
So that's where you guys are at. It's technically Becky's turn first, but if you wanted to rotate the shield, you can do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna rotate the shield, especially when I saw that cannon. I'm gonna try to make sure
Okay.
find that. Yeah.
All right. So they're directly behind you. So I mean, both the cannon and the grappling hook would be coming in from behind, essentially.
Okay.
There are not 2 carts to worry about right now. There are others. There's other carts all around you. They're just not close enough to be a potential threat at the moment. All right. So if you've aimed that around, then it is Becky's turn. What are you doing?
Alright, are they close enough that I can shoot the guy with the grappling hook with a bow?
Yeah, they're about 15 feet back right now.
Alright. So do I just roll this in here then, or?
We'll say, yeah, so we're not going to use a map for this, but you can target them. They're in the combat tracker for it. Just because I'd have to make, a ton of different maps, so I didn't use a map for this. But we'll say that 1 is the driver, 4 is the cannoneer, and 6 is the guy with the grappling hook.
Okay.
And it misses. So you hop up out of your seat and kind of flip around. You put your knee against the back of the seat where your head was, and try to take a shot. But there's just too much shaking going on. You haven't really gotten used to this yet. This was your first try, obviously, off the back of this car. But the arrow just goes wide, doesn't come anywhere near him.
All right.
Any bonus actions? No?
No.
Okay. Most of the time, the carts will be skipped, so I have the carts in here too. You see Lindy's blue badass and the freaking longship in there. Most of the time, the carts are going to be skipped unless they're doing something like if the cart has a mechanic to it. I'll explain that when those come up. But for the most part, Lindy is just going to be driving and trying to dodge shit, and you can yell back and forth to her, to try to turn a little bit or something to help a shot or whatever if you guys need to. But that ship doesn't have anything. The driver is going to keep moving. The cannoneer is continuing to turn it around, and the cannon is now facing. It was still aimed off to the left from a shot they'd made previously, and he was kind of slowly turning it around to face you, and it is now facing the car, but he doesn't have a chance to shoot it yet. The guy with the grappling hook is going to try to throw it at the car. No, he rolled a 2, so the grappling hook, he's just got it spinning over and over and over again over his head, and he flings it, but just in time as you've rotated the shield around, so it just clinks off the shield, so he starts grabbing and trying to roll it back up into his hands like fishing almost. Your turn. What are you doing?
Alright. I'm going to get Mr. Cannon. He was 4?
Cannon is 4, yeah.
Okay. Did I target him? No.
No, just drop
Not
it
yet.
on him.
You can drop it on him in the
Okay.
combat tracker or
Okay.
hold control click, either way.
Alright. Then I'm going to go after Mr. Cannon and see if I can hit him with the death knell.
Okay.
Am I close? I'm assuming I'm close, huh?
Yeah, they're
Good,
about
15
15 feet back, yeah. You know what, actually, during the cart's turns, that's when moves will happen, as far as, because you're all on the vehicle, so technically they'd be a little bit closer now, but based
Okay.
on what they're trying to do, they wouldn't try to shoot you with a cannon if they're directly behind you, because you would just be, wreckage in front of them if it hits, so they would need to move, so they're staying where they are. They're keeping pace right now.
Okay.
So you kind of dip your hand up carefully over the top of this shield, not wanting to take a cannonball shot to the head, and release this little blast of roiling black and green energy that flings out, and it hits him straight in the chest. And he's standing there and almost instantly shocked, and he's obviously deafened from the death knell, hearing the bells in his ears. Go ahead and roll damage. Thriggins are really big, so I mean he wasn't blocked very much by the cannon.
Okay.
So I'll explain this in a second. You see the unconscious thing. So you blast him with it, and where your death knell normally knocks them back a little ways, it knocks him so much off of his feet, and the impact of it, the force of it, triggered his harness. The same way that you guys have these harnesses. You guys understood what happened with the harnesses, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as they're triggered, they go off like an airbag, except it surrounds you in a big bubble. And so that this basically you hit him in the chest, and the force of it just knocks him off his feet, and this bubble instantly inflates around him, about a 5-foot or so bubble around him, and he goes floating off, and is the ship is the long ship that's chasing you is probably 30 feet ahead before he even bounces off the ground the first time, and is just rolling off. He's gone. Not dead, they don't die. So obviously this is saving, that's the intent of this thing is to save them, so unless you're trying to kill them. But so that's if you're. Oh, I guess you have one more. So do you have another? Do you want to use another death knell or bonus action or what?
I'm gonna see if I can hit the grappling hook guy. He's
Okay.
he's sick. Or should we hit the grappling hook guy? What are you thinking?
Sure.
Yeah. 6.
Okay. This one goes wide and crashes into the mast of this ship that doesn't really need a mast, but they wanted to build it thematically appropriate, I guess, which is probably why they're moving in the pack, because their ship's a little bit slow. But it crashes into the mast, and you see a chunk of splinters of wood just fall down to the deck, and many of them fall back behind the ship, but it doesn't hit anything of import.
Okay.
Bonus action.
And actually, I think I'm good.
Okay. I applied long rests for you guys too, so you're back to full because you technically this. So when you guys brought back the parts, that was the night before last. So you brought those parts back, then you slept that night, which was your first night sleeping on the surface in quite some time, by the way, on the surface of her. And then you had a whole day of all that prep stuff, basically, which is where I was reading all the background info that Lindy had given you guys. And then you slept through that night, and then today's the race. So you've had a couple of days of rest on the surface. All right, back to Navarro's turn.
Alrighty. Try this again.
So you've got a cannoneer and a driver.
I thought he had the grappling hook.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. Yeah.
Unless
Right,
he's
yeah,
switched.
yeah. I'm gonna change the names on him. I should have done that earlier. There you go. Okay. And so yeah, so you kind of before you haven't even moved, you just yank another arrow out and take a shot. And this one actually, the guy that's swinging the grappling hook, as he's spinning it around, it ends up going straight through his shoulder. And he looks down and sees this blood, and his eyes go wide, like maybe he wasn't really expecting to take any serious hits in this. And he yanks the cord on his chest there, the same one that Lindy had pointed out to you guys. His bubble inflates and he goes flying off the ship, leaving just the driver and the ship. What are you doing?
I don't think I have anything else. So.
Okay. Lindy's gonna keep it up. You look over and see that she's just giddy with excitement. Like you can't really see her face with the mask there, but she's just tapping her feet. This is the most fun she's ever had, kind of thing. Longship. Now that the cannoneers are both gone, you see the driver kind of look back and forth, his kind of crewmates are both gone. You see him beginning to try to pull ahead. It doesn't look like his ship has enough speed to really get too far ahead, but it kind of pulls up beside you off to your left. So now the ship is kind of slowly able to catch up, but doesn't have enough to really get too much faster. And Lindy isn't pushing it all the way yet. It's because you guys are having to dodge left and right through all of these pillars. But it pulls up next to you, and the driver is going to try to slam the ship into your car. But not with that roll. The cars are now neck and neck. You're running parallel, and there's just happens to be a turn coming up that Lindy is kind of looking for and prepared for, and you both see this. So you're kind of holding on just in case things go real bad. But she slowly starts to veer off to the right a little bit, where this pillar is straight ahead, and the longship is trying to veer off as well, and it's just trying, but it can't turn fast enough, and ends up banking its side straight into this pillar there, and just explodes in a loud boom. Not explodes as in fiery explosion, but explodes like the ship just goes, crashing into wooden splinters flinging everywhere, and that ship is removed from the race. There we go. Off to your left, you guys kind of pass around that pillar and you move up through another one. You have to snake back to the left again, back almost parallel to where you were before. Off to your left, though, you see another cart that's weaving through the rocks. This one looks like just one huge wheel. It's about 12 feet tall or so, with a tread that's only about 4 foot wide, and with a platform in the middle that's veering in your direction. On the platform, you see two halflings in furry orange masks that sit at two separate control panels. One of them looks to maybe be steering, while the other is controlling some kind of a turret suspended above the platform inside the wheel that is slowly coming towards your car. Lindy shouts through a smile. She says, "Gosh, these little gerbil weirdos are giving my people a bad name." And it is Kiedis' turn. What are you doing?
Alright.
So basically,
Okay.
off to your left, you see a big wheel. It looks like, you remember that episode of South Park where Mr. Garrison made that wheel thing?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's basically a wheel, just one giant wheel, and they're inside the wheel.
Okay.
But it's open face. It's only about 4 foot wide, 12 feet tall.
Okay. And how many people are on it?
There's two.
Can I see? Two? Okay.
There's two. Both of them are little control panels. One of them looks like he's controlling this turret that is now aiming in your direction, and the other is driving.
Alright, then I'm going to turn the shield to face them. Are
It's
they
off
starting
your
to
left,
approach
so-
us still?
Yeah, so, I mean, you were facing it south. You were facing it back, basically, so you're turning it to the right now, which is just one turn, so you're able to do it during your turn. What's that? What'd you say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, if I had time to Or if they're still coming at us, it looks like they're coming at us, right? I'm going to face in that direction if they
They're
are.
coming in from the right. I mean, they're moving straight ahead just like you, but they're kind of veering over towards you, and this turret is turning towards Dane.
Yeah, then I'm going
Gonna
to
move
face
the shield. Okay.
So even if they don't attack us, just be ready. So.
Okay. All right. So you've rotated the shield around to kind of protect from that direction. They're about 25 feet away right now. Is that it for your turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Becky's turn. What are you doing?
All right, and they're how far away?
About 25 feet.
25?
Yeah, all right, I'll give it a try. All right, they're not on the combat tracker.
Oh, yeah, they are. Sorry, I just didn't make them visible for you guys. There we go.
And we're gonna try to shoot that one.
All right. So the guy's sitting there trying to turn this, whatever small wheel he's got basically to rotate this turret, and he goes to turn it, and he looks over just out of the corner of your eye or corner of his eye and sees you standing up with an arrow pointed at him. He just instantly ducks his head down. The arrow goes flinging over the both of them. If they were normal size, it probably would have hit, but because they're little halflings, it looks like it just went straight over its head. The driver's going to keep driving. So is Lindy. The turret is now going to take a shot. You see the turret is now aimed basically straight at your car, and the guy that just ducked kind of presses a button on his dash in front of him, and there's a loud boom as a ball of rolled up netting comes flying out of the barrel of this turret cannon, aimed in the direction of your ship. But it looks like it's coiled up too much, and where the ball should have expanded out to like a bolus would basically to throw this net over your car, it looks like the ball is still wrapped up and just bounces off the shield and it doesn't do anything. And the wheel is going to keep moving. It is getting closer now to 15 feet to your left. Ketis' turn. What are you doing?
Okay. That turret guy needs to go. So I'm going to see if I can hit him with it as no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take a shot at him again, just over the shield, trying to protect as much of the car as you can, and it doesn't. It ends up smacking, just going straight through the center of the wheel. Doesn't hit anything at all, but the center open space of the wheel basically just sails right through. Doesn't hit anything. Gonna take another shot.
One more time.
Okay.
That's not going to do it.
And worse even, you try to take the shot, but where you're kind of jostled a little bit as Lindy bumps over a small rock in the road there, and you end up blasting the shield right in front of you. So it kind of goes off straight in front of your face there. There's no shrapnel or anything to worry about. The steel of this plate is made very solid, but it is so bright, the little blast of it smashing against this thing that should have knocked the shield away, but instead of the shield not being able to move away, it pushes you back a little bit. You're knocked out of your seat. You're still in the car. You're not pushed away from it. But you're knocked out of your seat and you're now standing on the side of the cart as you just kind of grasped onto something to hold on for a second, and you're temporarily blinded for the next round. Is that it for your turn?
Yep. All right.
Becky's turn.
Alright, let's try this again.
Yay!
That's fair.
This unfortunate accident is what it'll be called once they, once the coroners come to the report for this, to do the report for this. You release the arrow, and where these are not supposed to be that dangerous, you're not supposed to see a lot of deaths. Unfortunately, this arrow that was supposed to just kind of stop him or knock him out of the race instead goes through his neck, and he's choking on this gout of blood that's pouring down over him as he kind of falls back towards the back of this, just where his seat has kind of moved behind him, and he falls back onto to this platform. They're choking and choking and choking. The driver looks down and yells for his friend, and isn't driving the cart anymore. The cart kind of veers off, just going Lindy's veering off, but the wheel is just going straight and straight, but it's not. The acceleration is gone. It's just slowing down as it kind of slows to a stop as this halfling's trying to help his friend. They're out. You should feel bad about murdering poor little halflings.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a game. That's somebody's kid.
Alright, that is your turn.
Thanks, honey. Yeah.
All right, Lindy spins around one, another pillar basically that's coming up in front of you, and rotates off to the right with a somewhat sharp turn. So she spins around that, and you're coming too close to where this next pillar is. There just isn't enough of a gap, and it looks like she's may have practiced this jump a time or two because of how professionally she goes through it. But basically, between these two is a small little dirt ramp, essentially. She just drives straight over that thing. You guys go airborne for about 10 feet or so. It's not far, but just a little bit, which when you're going that fast feels like an eternity. But it lands roughly. Ketis, in fact, roll a dex save since you weren't really secured in place.
Okay.
You're not seeing any of this, so Nivara can recount this part to you later on because you missed the badass jump. But you're still a little bit blinded, so you're just trying to hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. You kind of felt this lift off, and you kind of felt that those wheels aren't on the ground anymore. So you kind of hold on tight and not try to move yourself for a second, and you land safely. Like you're still holding onto the side of the cart. You're not like flailing, by the way. It's not like your feet are in the air. You're just not secured in the seat. Your turn. What are you doing?
All right. Is there anything I can see? Any carts coming at us?
You can't see shit right now. You're still blinded.
Oh yeah.
It'll be gone. Like it's starting to get better, and you kind of you can pull yourself back into your seat because you can feel fine.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Move yourself back into your seat, and throw the center. Think of it as a seatbelt essentially, but throw the straps back around yourself to hold yourself in place, and then you're kind of rubbing your eyes, and your vision's starting to come back. That it for your turn?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. If I can't do anything else, I'm just gonna try to get myself secured back in the seat.
Okay. You are hearing other cars around you, by the way. It just at the moment anyway, there weren't any that were close enough, at least that you could identify by audibly, so by hearing.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Lindy keeps kind of swerving back and forth, getting between these pillars, and other rocky outcroppings on the ground. Maybe some of them that don't necessarily have the kind of ramp that she needed to make another badass jump with her blue flame car. But coming up straight behind you after another solid 30 seconds or so, which again feels like forever in this kind of a race, but coming straight up behind you, barreling through the wake of dust that Lindy's blue badass is throwing out, is another cart. This one, it's small and sleek. It almost resembles the cart that you're in, with the exception of a set of jaws on the front of the cart that resemble pincers. Inside the tiny cabin of this cart, you see two racers that are wearing praying mantis masks, like insect masks with big eyes. The cart's edging closer and closer until you see the two pincers snapping shut and opening again, just snapping shut, opening again, threateningly. I drop them in. They all get random initiatives, by the way, when I drop them in, so where they show up in the order is just random. But you guys are keeping the same, basically everybody keeps the same initiative. All right. It is Navarro's turn. What are you doing? Oh, I didn't sound the horn when that one went off, but you guys did hear another horn when that wheel slowed down and stopped racing.
Pick a random one, I guess. Try that one.
Yeah, there's just two in there, and they both are behind a dash. You can't really tell, that either is doing anything different. But they are behind like a windshield, so an arrow isn't going to do any good.
Ah, crap.
So I didn't specify that enough, so you can try something different if you want, without counting that arrow.
You do have other tricks.
Yeah.
And you can try to just think of a way to not make it lethal.
Yeah.
Well, you
so
don't necessarily have to, but you probably don't want to get arrested when this is over either.
Yeah.
You can spend the next session in fantasy prison.
Choose. Okay, and they're directly behind us?
Yeah, the cart is directly behind you. It looks a little bit like an insect with pincers on the front of it, with big steel jaws on the front of it, kind of like a Jaws of Life, except bigger. And they're opening and closing that, and they're both behind like a windshield. They're inside a car that looks very similar to yours. It's got a little insect theme. So they're behind the windshield, so you don't have a direct shot at them with something like an arrow, is all. And there's only two of them.
Alright, well, we're gonna try a gust of wind then, I guess, and try and just blow them off course.
Okay.
Smash them into a fucking wall or a pillar or something.
How does Gust of Wind work? What level is that?
Level 2.
Okay. 60 feet long, 10 feet wide. That's enough to encompass the whole car there. Okay, so it's going to be, they're going to have a strength save for the car, essentially. Now, what, so it looks like you can aim this from any direction, right? Yeah, from you in any direction, so I guess you just have to aim it straight back. Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking initially you could, aim it from one side, but it doesn't look like you can. It has to be from you, and then in a 60-foot long line from you and 10 feet wide, which would cover the whole car, so. And it will definitely slow it down because it'll have to spend, basically it's double the amount of movement to go the same distance, so basically it's cutting its movement in half. Flames, it's concentration also, so go ahead and mark off the spell, put the concentration effect up. And I don't think, you don't have to spend your action. Once it's up, you don't have to spend your action, it's just permanently going, it looks like, right? Yeah, it's just permanently on. So once you've put that up now, like your next turn, you could still have this up as long as you don't get as long as you don't lose your concentration, and it would still be shooting a gust of air back behind you, potentially slowing down anything that's coming in directly from behind you.
Okay.
Okay, so they are going to make their save. Let's see. Oh, well. So they rolled a 19 plus 5 is 24. Their modifier is a 20 because the strength of a car is, of course, going to be pretty strong. But I think it's still, it's not going to push it off course because you're pushing it straight back anyway. So it doesn't flip the car over or anything, but it's definitely slowed it down pretty dramatically. And you're seeing that as Lindy's continuing to move forward, it's getting further and further and further away as it's struggling to keep up with you. So it was about 30 feet back or so, and now it looks like it's about 45 feet back. So it's quite a distance away from you. Anything else for your turn?
No.
Okay. Lindy is going to keep just moving. She does, where you're at right now, you're kind of in a almost an alleyway between a bunch of pillars on left and right, where she's got almost a straight shot. So she's just continuing forward. You hear her giggling, like she's just having a ton of fun up there driving. One of the Mantis guys, you can see them just barely at this distance. He is, you can't see actions, but you do see, hang on, I gotta find something, 1 second. That is verbal and material. You see him hold up something, and you can't quite identify what it is from this distance, but he holds something up and points at Ketis, because Ketis is the most visible, standing on the back of the cart there with the big turret. Roll a wisdom save. Not with that. You are immediately, so he holds this thing up towards you, and you see a little bit of a glow. You can tell he's trying to cast something at you, and you just immediately are onset by this urge, this irresistible urge to unstrap your harness, and you reach up and you kind of grab these little backpack straps, basically, and you press the little clips to let it go, and you press the release buttons, and they fall. It falls off like a backpack behind you. You kind of reach down. You're looking down, just like in a malaise. This is this. You shouldn't be doing this, but you're compelled to do this anyway. You kind of grab the backpack of it and just fling it down into the dirt. That's it for his turn. And the other one's still driving. And the wagon is too far back to do anything with these pincers, but it's still kind of slowly opening them and closing them threateningly. Your turn. What are you doing?
All right.
They're about 45 feet back.
Okay. Okay, what's the other driver? The other person doing, not the driver, but the other one.
Well, he just casted a spell at you, is what he did. So
Does he have like any kind of turrets or anything?
Not that you can see. It looks like one of them might be controlling the pincers, and the other was controlling the driving.
Okay.
I labeled driver under the
All right. Then
But the one that I mean, you do know which one casted the spell at you.
Yeah, and so he's the other dude, right?
Yeah, he's the other dude, and the other one's the driver.
Alright, then let's see if I can hit him with it.
The spell he casted, by the way, was Suggestion.
Okay. Damn it.
Doesn't even, yeah, like you aim it right and everything should have gone fine, but it looks like it careened off of the windshield and went flying off.
Alright.
Nice. So you aimed at the exact same spot, thinking, you know, maybe you'll get lucky this time. And this time the bolt goes through, and maybe there was just, you know, a crack in the windshield from the first hit that you couldn't see from this distance, but it goes straight through the windshield and smashes into this guy's chest. And well, that won't matter. Go ahead and roll your damage on it.
Okay.
It's fine. We're not gonna. It actually is instant death. It's too much. So how instant death work is basically if you get to 0 HPs, you're unconscious. If you take double your total HP, so if you had 10 HPs for your max HPs and you took 20 damage, it's instant death. There's just no. You would need like a resurrection. There's no unconsciousness. There's no waking you up type of thing. But anyways, that's what that should be. But of course, anyway. So this one, the bolt just crashes straight through the windshield and smacks into the guy's chest, and instantly his bubble inflates. And because of he's in this car, there isn't enough room for this bubble to inflate. It ends up pushing the other mantis masked guy into the side of his door there, and he just slammed into the side, and the car starts to slowly slow down because there's just nobody holding the accelerator anymore. As they're kind of squished inside of this thing, basically. Not dead, they're just, out of the race.
Okay.
And you hear another... And they are knocked out. Is that it for your turn?
Yeah, I'm just going to turn the shield back in the direction that Lindy's driving.
Okay, turning it forward?
Yeah.
Okay. That does slow you down, or turning it backwards rather slows you down, by the way. So if you left it behind because of the weight, this is a front wheel drive. So if you have the wheel or the shield turned to the back, that's a lot of weight on the back of the car, and the car lifts up slightly. So since there's no power to the front wheels, if the wheels aren't on the ground, it slows. If you have the shield left in the back, that would slow you down. Turning to the left would veer you to the left. Turning to the right would veer you to the right. Turning forward is normal.
Okay.
So you spin it around back to the front. As you're kind of diving back and forth through more of these pillars just over and over, just left and right, and kind of spinning around rocks and everything. Lindy's just giggling madly, just having the time of her life. You hear another cacophonous echo through the pillars, like another cart, some ways back, crashed into something, and then half a second later you hear another one. Lindy's excitement is palpable. She's practically giddy. She shouts up, "We're doing great, guys! I told you, almost out of the pillars." And sure enough, almost as she's finishing that horse-yelled sentence, she's just hoarse from yelling so much. Boom! You're blitzing out of the rocky pillars and out into the hard-pan salt desert. Wide open view of the horizon, where a mile or so ahead, the land just abruptly stops, ending in a sharp cliff. The glare of the sun off the dirt is enough to make you squint, but you immediately see that there are 3 other carts surrounding you that have made it out of the pillars with you. So there's 4 carts left, you and 3 others. About 30 yards ahead, you see the Viper's Silver Arrow canoe floating a few feet off the earth, just sailing through the air like it was nothing. About 20 feet to your left, you see a gargantuan tank-like beast of a cart that's rolling on huge treads at a speed you wouldn't expect that much metal to be able to maintain. About 15 feet to your right, you see a Vindian-style 2-wheeled cycle cart, like a motorcycle essentially, that's careening towards you hard, being driven by some familiar racers. The 3 people in shark masks that are the color of sand. In that brief moment, you barely have time to recognize that this cycle has massive spinning spikes that are jutting out from its 2 wheels, spikes that are just about to impact into the Lindy's Blue Badass. And I'll throw them in here.
Turn that way. Little Jerry.
So you don't see their faces, but based on the shapes of these guys and the uniform or the clothing they're wearing, these look like the sand sharks. These look like the guys that you went and robbed, and they're driving this motorcycle thing instead of maybe what they intended to. But you see they're all wearing shark masks that are kind of a tan-colored shark mask. but you see a little halfling guy. You see a dwarf woman with long blonde braids, and you see a big, kind of dumb-looking, muscly, kind of an oafy guy. And that was Dom. That's the guy that Nivara had pretended to be when she was inside their shop there. But you don't have time to spin the wheel. It's too close. They're only about 15 feet. You were facing forward. You can get it to the right, but it won't get there before this initial spike. The little motorcycle essentially kind of just spins over, and you hear just an awful sound as spinning steel is crushing into steel plates on the side of your car. Thankfully, your wheels are solid. They're not tires. There's no rubber. But it does crash into it, and that's not good. It rips into chunks of steel, basically go flinging off of it as the spinning. You understand that these are like sticking out of a chariot wheel, essentially, right? You understand how the spinning spikes work on like a chariot or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it goes digging into the side of your cart, and chunks of just twisted metal tip go flinging off of it, and back behind you, as this crashed into yours here. That is. Yeah, that's it. So steadying herself from the impact, the shark-masked dwarf woman with long blonde braid leans up. She kind of stands up straight. There are basically three of them in front of each other, one in front of the other, in a line along essentially a motorcycle. But she kind of steadies herself, squishes her knees into it to hold herself still, and you see her raise a glowing rod that she aims in your direction. That. You see a glowing beam of crackling green energy that blitzes out from the end of the rod that just narrowly misses the blue badass. But you see just where the bolt hit, right next to where the chunks of steel are all ripped out. You see where the bolt hit, the earth was just disintegrated, just completely destroyed, just gone essentially. You see her face kind of twist like she's cursing under that mask, but she readies another shot, and it is now your guys' turn. So it's Becky's turn. What are you doing? You still have a gust of wind aiming behind you.
Okay, so if I turn there, what side are they on? The right side?
So yeah, these guys are you're surrounded. You've got a car in front, a car on the left, and a car on the right. The car in the front is the Viper. The car on the left is a massive dwarven tank.
Okay.
And the car on the right is this motorcycle. And the tank seems to be ignoring you. It's just moving fast and going straight ahead. It doesn't look to have been responding to you. It's about 25 feet away. The motorcycle is about 15 feet away, and it's definitely trying to attack you.
Okay, so gust of wind is always on. So if I just turn to the right, it would push them.
Yep.
Okay.
You
Well
do that.
then, yeah.
Okay. And I think rotating. Maybe, let me look at it. I'm not sure, because you might be able to just, as far as movement is concerned, turn without it taking your turn. Never mind. You can't turn it. Never mind. So, if you read the first line, it says a line of strong wind, 60 feet long, 10 feet wide, blast from you in a direction you choose for the spell's duration. So the direction you chose was back, and it's going to stay that way, basically, for the duration.
Okay. Well,
Unless you dropped it and recasted it, you could do that.
actually, that's a good idea. I think I'm going to do that.
Okay. You didn't mark off the spell slot earlier, so go ahead and mark off 2.
Alright.
Okay. And let me have them for the cycle here. Let me roll the strength save. The blast is just instantly pushing. They're not knocked off of the bike, the individuals, but the bike is like struggling to stay standing up. It's a little bit top heavy essentially, and is kind of veering off to the right just because of the amount of wind that's pushing through them. So they're being slowly pushed away essentially, but still moving forward. The tank is ahead of you now, so the tank is beating you, and the Viper is beating them. And this bike is now off to your right, on pace with you at the same speed you are, but is being pushed away from you further. They're about 20 feet away. That it for your turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Little Jerry is driving. I'll mark him as a driver for you.
You want to check out? I think it's time.
Okay. Lindy shouts out to you guys. She says that tank looks like it's going to be a problem, guys. Maybe we can harpoon it or something, but it's going too fast. We're not going to be able to catch up. That's it for her turn. The tank is just continuing to move. It's just ahead of you guys. Zarina is going to use another charge. You see the rod crackle out another beam of green energy that launches into the ground just behind the back wheel. Looks like they were trying to spin you out to stop the force of the wind. But it spins out, or it hits the ground rather than spinning out, and you see the ground just kind of melt and just doesn't. It's just disintegrated. It doesn't exist anymore. Dom's turn. He is going to make an athletics. Okay, he'll use grappling hook because he's too far, which will put him at disadvantage. You guys can both still hear me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You see the big guy with the shark mask on, the one that Navarre had emulated, just trying to kind of use his left arm to block his face from this gust of wind, and he spins and spins and spins this grappling hook over his head, and with a deftness you wouldn't expect for kind of a lumbering oaf looking guy, he flings this straight through, and it's able to be just enough out of the wind that it makes its way over and hooks onto the side of the shield right in front of you, and he immediately just leaps off of the side of their cart there, and is trying to reel himself in over the wind. The wind is actually helping here because it's kind of lifting him up off the ground so he didn't smack into the ground, and he's trying to pull himself and kind of reel himself over to make his way across from the bike over onto your car. He's made it about halfway, and the car was pushed back to about 20 feet, so he's about 10 feet away, holding a rope that is grappled to your shield. That's it for his turn. What are you doing?
That was Dom, right?
That was Dom. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see if I can knock him off the rope
Okay. What are you doing?
with the. See if I can get him with a death spell. Let me see.
Okay.
Nope.
You reach up to try to blast and end up same thing. Almost the same way. You end up letting it go just too soon, and you smash it into the shield right in front of you. This time it doesn't knock you back. The critical roll wasn't that bad, or the fumble roll rather. But you are blinded for a second, so you'll be blinded for the rest of this turn and your next turn. What are you doing?
Okay.
That's
see if I
twice
can
that you got ones rolled on your death knell this turn.
Yeah. Just see if I can aim in the same general direction.
Okay.
Or
Roll
even though I
disadvantage.
can't see,
You still know about where he is, but because you're blinded, you'll have disadvantage on the attack.
Yeah.
So you kind of aim it out, and you hear just a thump and a grunt as it definitely hits something. Go ahead and roll your damage. Okay. You don't see this happen, of course, but you hear a thump kind of a sound, and a yell that is getting further away as it's going on, like as he's kind of inflated in this bubble and is now floating off in the distance. And there's just kind of a whipping sound as this rope is flapping itself back and forth, just with nothing on the other end of it. It is just being blown around by the wind from Navarre's gust of wind. But he's now knocked off. But if your turn.
Yeah.
Okay. The cycle is trying to move itself left. It's trying to ram you again, essentially, but it's still 20 feet away, and it can't move. It can't make itself closer with the speed that it's trying to keep pace with. So because of the wind, it can't get any closer. So little Jerry's just keeping it moving. Navarre's turn. You've still got Zarina, who has a wand of disintegration that she's trying to hit you guys with, that if she hits you guys, you're probably out of the race. You have a tank up ahead just slightly, and on the opposite side of you. So you have a tank on your left, you're in the middle, this thing on the right, with Zarina and a driver, a little Jerry, on the bike. What are you doing?
Alright, well, I guess I'm gonna aim for her.
Okay. She's holding this wand up again and trying to shield her face with her other hand to keep the wind out of her eyes, and getting ready to try to shoot again. And you just release an arrow through it that is immediately sucked into this gust of wind and just zips over like a bolt of lightning almost, just to how fast it is being pulled by the air here, and hits her. Go ahead and roll your damage. It looks like it went through the hand. She had just pulled it away just in time, and the arrow just goes straight through. It doesn't even stick in, but she's got one hand up, and it just puts a hole straight through it. She's still got the wand pointed at you. Is that it for your turn?
Yeah.
Okay, little Jerry is... well, nothing else he can do. He's still trying to push forward. Lindy shouts out again. She says, "We're still going to need to take care of that tank, guys. We're coming up to the end." And the tank is ahead of you, so if it were to if you were to cross the finish line now, Shay would win, then the tank, and then you guys would be in third if you could get rid of this bike. The tank is just going to keep going. It's Zarina's turn. She is going to blast disintegration. That didn't roll. Am I lagging? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was I able to finish getting the shield in the right direction?
Yeah, while you're, for that last turn, yeah, you would have been able to get it over to the right. Now, you know what, that's actually a good idea.
The bike.
What's that?
Because going
trying to
towards
get towards the
aiming towards the bike. Because that's what I was trying to do. I know you said I didn't have enough time in the first round.
Yeah, but you did by the second round, so it was only because they were too close the first round. Basically, for one round, you can rotate it one quarter turn, basically.
Okay.
And they were just already too close the first time, so... and actually that helps, because otherwise this would have hit. So she's still firing charges out of this wand that is a wand of disintegration. And you see another bolt fly out of this, and you get the shield in place just in time, and it still hits it, and you see the spot where it hits is just starts to melt, and there's just nothing there anymore. But thankfully it's because of the way you turned it anyway. It's in a somewhat small spot, and nothing else appears to have hurt. It looks like it just sailed on through and continued. That is it for her turn. What are you doing?
Alright,
on your guys' turn, Lindy sped up a little bit to line her. Now you guys are in a straight line, so basically still the tank is in front, but where you guys were parallel with the bike, she was able to speed up a little bit, so now it's basically I should have put a map on there, would have made this make more sense. The tank is straight ahead of you on the left, you're in the middle, and then the bike is behind you on the right. So you guys are in a straight line now.
alright. Now, I don't know if I'd be able to, since I'm blind, but would I be able to hear the direction that the tank might be in and try to see if I can hit it with one of the harpoons?
You're in the turret seat, or you're in the turret seat, not the harpoon gun. I mean, you could reach down and smash it on the dash, but that's basically right in front of Nivara.
Okay, well then, I guess you can do that then.
She'd have to turn it and aim it and everything, so...
Okay. Yeah, it'd be better. I'm blinded anyway, so... Alright, and so I'm already still facing the bike, so
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can...
One more
See
time?
if I can guess where... see if I can hit her with the death knell.
Okay.
So, disadvantage?
You knew about where they were until Lindy sped up, but because she's now further ahead, there's really not much chance of you hitting it without sight. Basically, like if you'd be firing straight to the right, and it would just be open air.
Okay. Alright, I guess I'll just keep the shield aimed in that direction, then I'll probably just get this turn then.
Okay. Right. The bike is trying to speed itself back up to catch. Now it has fallen out of the wind now because it's back behind. So it's just trying to speed itself up well, the little Jerry is driving it, trying to catch back up. As soon as it gets in, though, it would get into the wind. So you notice that it looks like it's going to try to move behind you and maybe move up on the other side. But for now, it's still basically where it is, just trying to speed up. Becky's turn.
Okay. Let's try this again.
Okay. You, since you're not blinded, really have no trouble with this. You just kind of release another arrow in the exact same direction, and it sails through and it does hit her. and this one hits her in the shoulder, just below the same hand that you'd already hit. You see her start to kind of get a little bit woozy, and like she's blood draining out from two different wounds that are just sailing out in the wind behind. But it looks like she's no longer fighting. She's kind of put her hand down and isn't holding the wand up towards you guys anymore. Jerry, looking behind him, sees her, already pretty beat up, and looks like he doesn't have much left too. As the bike is still in fine shape, but he doesn't have either of his buddies with him basically anymore. As she's passing out, he's still trying to keep the bike going though, and is just trying to speed himself up and then move in behind. So you guys are now that basically Tank is forward and on the left, then you guys in the middle, and then the bike behind you. Lindy is still in the middle, trying to just keep pace. It's basically a straight shot, but she's trying to get some speed to get above this Tank. Tank is still just moving ahead. Tita's turn.
Okay. Now, can I see anybody on the tank?
No, it looks like a solid. You know what an APC is? An armored personnel carrier.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it looks like just it looks less like a tank than it does a big steel truck, kind of like with plates all the way around. You can't see anybody at all. You just see a bunch of plates.
Okay. Let's see.
Think Minion from Twisted Metal Tip. Like
Yeah.
Minion? Yeah, that's him. Obviously dwarven design. It's Mahad Rakamian.
Okay. Alright, would there be any chance of it doing anything? I can't think of much else, any of my spells that would do much else, that a death knell might do anything with it? Or you guys I can take a chance, right? To the tank itself. Like, knock it off, maybe knock it off for us a little bit or something.
Roll,
I don't know if it'd do enough force to blast it or not, but...
Yeah, roll an intelligence check.
Okay.
Nah, you don't think so. I mean, you didn't roll great, but you're looking at it and you're trying to find some kind of an imperfection or some kind of a weakness, maybe. Like if it had just wheels, you could probably smash the wheel, with a death knell or something. But these have treads. It doesn't, or well, kind of wheels inside of the treads inside the whatever, you know what I mean? Wheels inside of a tread. It doesn't. You don't see any spot that you think would be useful for that. I mean, looking as far as your other stuff you could do that would potentially be useful to hitting a tank with. I mean, if you were closer, maybe, but it's about 25 feet to the left, 25 feet front and to the left, rather. And now the bike is behind you. So not really. I mean, you could probably start spinning your shield that direction, but it doesn't look like it's even trying to hit you. It looks like this thing was probably just built to be, pure defense and speed and just get to the ending faster than anybody else without worrying about, trying to knock anybody else out.
Yeah. Alright, well then, I guess... aim at little Jerry then, see if I can knock him off course with it.
Okay.
Because he is still racing, right? But
Yep,
he's not.
He's directly behind you guys now, and your
Yeah.
shield is to the right.
Okay.
Which is going to pull the car to the right, by the way. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Then does it take my turn to move the shield forward?
Technically, I counted that as movement for you, or movement to rotate the turret for the harpoon gun.
Okay.
So basically, that would just be your movement. You still have your action.
Alright, then I'm just going to go ahead and move the shield facing the direction that Lindy's driving forward.
Okay. All right. So you're rotating it forward. You still have your action.
Yeah. Now see if I can hit little Jerry with the death knell.
Okay. You aim it behind, and you see him kind of duck down as you've got your hand kind of sticking out over this. And he had seen how you'd shot Dom already. So he ducks down behind the kind of little small windshield in front of the bike there, and it goes sailing overhead, doesn't hit him.
Damn it. Let's see if I can try another one.
Okay.
Seriously?
3 times now. This time you've kind of planned for this, and the roll was a 1 actually on the fumble table. So that's actually basically you rolled good on the fumble table, so that it wasn't a critical problem. But anyway, this time you'd kind of already blinded yourself twice, and you kind of put your hand up just a little bit higher. Not really wanting to risk getting your hand knocked off, but you knew that little Jerry didn't have anything left as far as firepower, as far as you know anyway. So you were risking a little bit more, and you put your hand above it. So thankfully you didn't blast yourself this time, but it still goes sailing over and does not hit him.
Okay. Then that'd be it, 'cause I already moved the shield. So.
Okay. All right. The cycle you see kind of veering over to the left a little bit more. It is now so kind of he's not wanting to risk getting shot by you, but he still wants to win. He's got Zarina kind of on the back, the dwarf with the long blonde braids that are flailing behind, but she looks like she's passed out on just behind him. And so he pulls over to the left, and now basically you've got the tank to your front left and the bike to your back left. Becky's turn. What are you doing?
Okay, so I'm going to change up tactics. So
Okay.
I'm going to get rid of Gust of Wind. I'm going to use Heat Metal on the tank.
All right, let's see what that does. What level is that? Let me find it.
It's
two?
level 2. It's right.
Okay.
It's directly below Gust of Wind.
Okay. This would be your last second level slot. Go ahead and here, I'll drop off the effect of Gust of Wind for you. So the wind dies down over there. 60 feet, so you're within range.
Alright, so just, oh no, where's
Yeah,
effect?
go ahead and put that up. Yeah, I was just reading it to see how it would work. Are you going to use just a second level because you can cast it at higher levels? You see that?
Oh, no,
So
I
at
did
higher
not notice
levels,
that.
if you choose, it's up to you. You can use a third level or fourth level. If you use a third level, it would be 3d8 damage. If you use a fourth level, it would be 4d8 damage. But
Okay,
you only
well
have
then
one fourth level slot, so keep that in mind.
Alright, so I'm gonna take back that second spell slot and use a third one.
Okay. All right, go ahead and roll 3d8. And in fact, actually, hang on. I might have already put the levels in there for you. Let me see here. It is. Yeah, I already had one in there. So you see the second one where it says 3d8 fire?
Yeah, the damage.
Yeah, go ahead and drop that on the tank. And what is the save? Con saving throw or drop the object. Well, because they're inside the object, I'm not quite sure how that would work. Let's go ahead and try the con save too. So go ahead and click the cast button too. Hang on one second. Let me make sure that good. It's correct. Okay. Yeah, go ahead and click the cast button. Oh, okay. I have to roll it. I thought it would automatically. Oh, because you don't have a target, I think. All right. 1 second. No, you're fine. You're fine. I can roll it in here. They rolled a 13, so with a DC of 15, they did not succeed. So the tank now has to drop itself somehow. So you kind of hold both hands out there, and you mumble some words while you're holding it. You've got your little idol, your idol, and you mumble some words, and you make these little divine hand gestures, and you notice that the tank is starting to get brighter and brighter. So this kind of dark steel tank, this black metal thing, is starting to turn a kind of an orange that's getting more and more reddish, and then, or I'm sorry, more reddish rather, and then more orangish, and then almost to white in some spots, and even from here, and this thing is quite ahead of you, and there's the wind blowing by as you guys are racing down this trackway, and you're starting to hear what sounds like yelling from the inside of it, coming from this thing, and you see a hatch open above the top, just the top of very top of this tank, and a hatch opens up, and you see a dwarf whose beard looks like it's maybe caught fire and is singed, and is starting to smoke off of it. There's just smoke pouring out of this hatch as soon as he opens it, but he jumps up, looks like he's maybe climbing a ladder, and then just hops himself off of it, yanking his cord as he goes, and the balloon just inflates and he goes flying off. The tank is still moving though, but it looks like maybe one of the occupants is now knocked out. The others are probably pretty badly hurt. So.
Alrighty. There we go.
Okay. Little Jerry is still keeping pace. He hasn't moved ahead. He's still basically, because his turn is the Sand Shark's turn essentially. He's still behind you. So basically, it's tank in the front. You guys are to the bottom right of that, and then the motorcycle is to your bottom left. So the tank and the cart are directly in front of each other, or the tank and the motorcycle rather. Lindy is keeping pace. Tank's turn. They can't speed up. They've slowed down a little bit. Like not much, but they're starting to come up behind you, so they'll end up being parallel directly to your left. Ketis' turn. What are you doing?
Okay.
So now it's tank directly on the left, and then the motorcycle right behind them.
Okay. Now, can I operate the harpoon, or would Becky have to move on her turn first?
I mean, you'd have to be reaching over her to rotate it. So, I mean, you could. It's just you'd have to rotate it probably. Basically, I wouldn't let you do both in the same turn because you're going to have to turn it to the left. And since you wouldn't be like in the proper position, I would say, you know, for the the penalty of it, I guess you could say, you could rotate it, and then the next turn you could hit the button to fire it if you wanted.
Okay. Now we'll wait, and if you want to, you can use the harpoon on your next turn. It's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. So
Hopefully I don't fucking...
You're spinning it over?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so you reach down.
So that way it's ready for her on the... Yeah.
Okay. You reach down and just kind of still trying to hold on tight to the back of the turret where you are, basically. You kind of reach over between Lindy, who's still just giggling like an insane person, and grab the wheel with your right hand and start yanking it slowly over to the left. And it takes some give. Like this isn't power steering here. So you gotta pull on it pretty good to rotate it around. Go ahead and roll a strength check for me.
Okay.
Because you're not in position to use both hands and you can't really brace yourself to do it right, but as long as this isn't a 1 or something, you'll be fine.
Seriously?
You got some bad juju today or something.
What the hell's going on, man?
Is that 5?
This game is cheats, dude. This fucking game cheats. I told you, games cheat. This is proof. After 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. Proof. This is proof. Yeah, this is some M. Bison shit.
God
right
damn
here.
it. You fucking are playing this shit.
I coded it to give you a lot of 1s.
Yeah.
So you reach down and you try, and I mean you're yanking on it. There's no way to fail this really, but you didn't get it all the way in there. It's about a quarter of the distance, but if it were to fire right now, it would go in front of the tank and not hit it. It would still have the chain around the tank, but the harpoon wouldn't hit, and the chain isn't going to hurt it really. So not quite in place yet, but you didn't fall off or anything at least.
That's good. I'm just gonna not do anything else anywhere. So.
All right. So the cycle is basically right behind the tank now because the tank had slowed down as it started to light up in this kind of bright red, bright orange from the heating of the outside of it, like a new paint job. But it is basically the tank straight to your left, the cart or the motorcycle behind it. The motorcycle isn't moving; it's kind of slowly veering left and right, like serpentining almost, like it's trying to look for a way to get around. It is Navarre's turn. You still have heat metal up. You can charge that again. You could rotate the turret and fire it, whatever you want to do.
Okay, so can I finish rotating it?
Yep.
And
you being in the proper spot for it can turn it a quarter turn and fire it in the same turn. The fire is the action. The turning would be your movement. Just like Ben could rotate the turret, or his shield turret, he could rotate it a quarter turn on his turn as his movement. Same thing for you. You can rotate it in a quarter turn for your movement, and then your action would be to fire it.
okay, well then I guess I'll do that then.
Okay. So you finish spinning this wheel, kind of chuckling that he just wasn't able to do it, like he somehow wasn't strong enough to just reach over, and you grab it, and like this isn't hard. You just kind of slowly turn it. It goes exactly where you expect it to. You don't even really have to try. You're kind of giggling over your shoulder a little bit, and then you reach down, and there's a button with a big hook that she's drawn on there, like with like a Sharpie kind of thing, and you smack that button. Go and roll a d20. Roll. There's no proficiency in it. We'll go ahead and count it as if it was, a normal. Since it's right next to you anyway, you're not going to have too much difficulty hitting. I just want to make sure that it's in there and you don't roll a 1, which maybe I've cursed you by saying since it worked for Ben. But roll a flat d20 and I'll do the math. Your proficiency is a 6, so we'll add that on there. Oh yeah, that's fine. You've got it kind of turned almost straight to the left, basically, and you smack this button on the dash, and the car jolts off to the right a little bit as the force of this thing is kind of lifting off the 2 left tires off of the 2 left wheels rather off the ground for just a second as the force of this shot is throwing out so much weight. But the barbed spear goes spinning, just rotating in air like a nice spiral, and slams in through the side of the tank. And yeah, with that, it sinks straight through the steel plating, basically where the driver's seat would be, essentially, if you expected this to be a normal shaped car. And there's this roiling of chain as this chain is unraveling out of the front from under the hood somewhere. And you are now tethered to this. You've got a chain that is not taut yet, but you could roll it in. But you basically have, you know, a 10-foot gap where you've got a chain slammed into this thing, or a harpoon slammed into this thing, and a chain connecting you and the tank. That if your turn.
Yeah.
Okay. Little Jerry is going to panic a little bit because he now sees that he's behind a tank that has a chain connecting it to you guys, but isn't moving so much yet. He spins himself over just a little bit, not much, but 5 feet basically to the left of the tank. So now it is you, the tank directly to your left 10 feet, and then the motorcycle 5 feet back to the left of the tank. Lindy is just cackling with mad glee, you know, at this turn of events of now using this chain turret that you've now attached yourself with the tank. She's trying to keep pace. She says, "You let me know if we need to, you know, if you need me to yank the wheel any direction or what. But you know, I'm just going to keep going for now." And she's just keeping it straight and keeping pace with the tank. She doesn't want to, you know, go too far, yank away from it, and end up tearing the turret out. The tank is not knowing what to do, is going to slowly start trying to turn itself to the left, trying to just get away from you, basically. And as it moves 5 feet over and is pulled out 5 more feet of chain. So it's basically 15 feet to the left now. Kitas' turn.
Okay. Alright, let's see.
Lindy shouts out to you. She says, I've got an idea, guys. If we just let that chain go when the tank is you know, in front of or around that motorcycle, the chain will wrap around the cycle, and I think they'll both be slowed down or stopped, and we could probably win it.
Okay. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll just aim the shield over that way just in case, towards the tank, in case they try to do anything to shoot at us.
Okay.
And then probably just let it go. What do you think? Because I can't really damage the tank or anything.
You can
Well,
smack the chain release button. It's right in the center, right between them. So if you wanted to, you could smack that easily.
Okay.
Okay. So
Oh,
for your
yeah.
movement, you're spinning the shield around and then gonna smack the button.
Yeah.
Okay. So you rotate the shield around. You feel the car start to list a little bit in the left, and you kind of reach over, which the shield being out of the way actually helps you in this, and that you can kind of reach down and smack the chain release off of the dash. And you hear a loud pop as the chain just immediately, there's just this lack of resistance where the car was being slowed a little bit, basically, by having this chain that was attaching it to something else. It just instantly speeds up a little bit from this lack of resistance. And the chain whips out and it snaps around. It's not, you know, you guys aren't smacked by it or anything, but definitely would have been dangerous had you been in the way. You instinctively kind of look over your left shoulders to see what happens, and the chain is floating in air for half a second before little Jerry's motorcycle goes driving right through it, and the chain gets wrapped up in the wheels. It snaps all the way around and gets kind of wrapped around both sides of the wheels. The motorcycle wasn't very long, and is now wrapped up inside this and being dragged along with the tank. The tank is not moving yet, but as far as not reacting to the movement, I guess, of the motorcycle being chained to it now, but it hasn't had a chance to yet. Is that it for your turn?
Yep. That's gonna be it.
Okay. So the cycle keeps trying to keep pace, but it can't go anymore. There's no traction anymore. It's got the chain is so wrapped up around it that you can't turn it anywhere, and it starts to tilt off to one side almost as it's just being dragged along. The tank looks like it's starting to struggle a little bit to pull this extra weight that it wasn't planned for. And actually there, the tank is starting to slow down. It looks like it's really not going to be able to keep pace with you guys anymore. And Lindy just shouts with glee. She sees that it looks like it's just you and the Viper left. Lindy is just cheering and shouting. She points over to the dash, and you know, this is the first time you've probably seen her take either hand off of the steering wheel, but she sees that there's no other. Oh, sorry, I didn't play the ship horn, but you heard the ship horn for the both of them being knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
But she looks over and just takes one hand off of the steering wheel for just a brief moment and points at the dash. She says, "Hit it! We're gonna win this."
Okay.
You gonna smack the red button?
Yep.
All right.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You shout that over to Ben as he's hanging one hand. Remember, he's holding one hand on this shield turret and just smack the button on the dash like the other button. So he's not in a good secure spot just yet. But all right. So you smack the button there. The insane burst of ludicrous speed snaps your head back. The windshield's kind of burning your face with G-forces you've never experienced as you accelerate forward like a gleaming, fiery bullet. You almost immediately catch up to Shay's silver arrow. She was only about 30 yards ahead of you, but you are almost instantly on pace with her next to her. And even over the roar of your engines, you can hear Lindy's infectious laughter. She's just giggling in glee. You look to your left as you pass the Viper's flying chrome canoe and see Shay's eyes through her snake mask that are just widening in surprise. You see her look over to the driver's seat of your cart, and even through the mask, you can see her features that are kind of lighting up in a smile. She even looks like she's laughing along with the halfling woman that's sitting next to you. The blue badass barrels forward, leaving the silver arrow in a cloud of dust as you thunder through the finish line. You pass through a huge crowd of people cheering and throwing fists in the air. You barely see the deluge of confetti dropping from above as you guys are just blitzing through it too fast. There is actually a fanfare sound effect that you would be hearing here, except you guys can't hear it. So, but you, whoops. You blitz through it too fast, though. Lindy's head is leaned back, just cheering in elation. But the cliff's edge is racing toward you at a breakneck pace.
Do we have brakes?
She showed you where the brake handle was. It's in front of Becky.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, pull that.
So you yank the brake handle back as Lindy spins the wheel to the right, sending up a rooster tail of dirt 25 feet in the air as the cart careens to a stop half a dozen feet from the edge. Lindy's still giggling like an insane person. It's finally almost quiet for a second. It was a hectic race, but she's just giggling and just totally elated, just filled with excitement and joy of the win. You look behind to your right. You've spun around basically, so behind to your right is where the finish line is, and you see Shay's silver arrow pass through the finish line, but it doesn't look like it's slowing down. She flies straight past you and just goes straight over the edge.
Shit.
Well, all right then. I was going to say we could try to get her with the harpoon, slow her down, but a little too late for that.
She's already too fast. You guys were
That's not
stopped and
bad.
she was going extremely fast. But she goes straight over the edge. The reaction from Lindy is heartbreaking. She yanks her mask away, her jaw drops in a wordless shout, just unintelligible in her terror. Almost as if in slow motion, just as Shay's cart passes out of view below the cliff face, there's an eruption in the ground below you that sends a spiral of twisting vines out from the cliff and ensnares her chromed canoe and begins to just starts raising it up and up and up until a long ramp of solid vines extends out over the chasm. Lindy's mouth snaps shut. Her face seals in determination. She's not even looking at either of you. She shifts gears. She spins the car around in place, throwing up dirt in every direction as she lines up to race up over these vines. She spouts a series of words so fast that you have to pause a second to kind of make sense of what she's saying. She says, "I'm sorry, I thought she would give it up. We won, but I have to try to save her. Are you staying or going? Quick."
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Barely waiting for your response, and with a deafening roar, the blue badass's engines burst into life again. The cart barrels up the ramp towards the canoe. From here, you can see the vines that are twisting around it and crushing it to pieces. You see Shay's slim form tumble out of it and fall half a dozen feet to the fibrous surface. As she does, more and more of these tendrils snake up around her, and you have just enough time to recognize there's just an unmistakable fear on her face before they surround her and entomb her. It's not far. You're basically driving up what's the remainder of this vine ramp, basically. Lindy pushes the pedal to the metal, trying to get every last bit of power out of the blue badass. You're jostled left and right in every which way as the wheels bump over ridges and lumps of this humongous green tendril, careening toward the knot of vines that are surrounding Shay. Just as the cart is reaching the end of the ramp, though, you see the knot at the end where she's stuck inside of it, beginning to sprout flowers of varying colors. There's basically blossoms of flowers that are coming up out of it. Roll a nature check, both of you. And actually, Ben, roll it with advantage because you're alchemical proficiency.
Alright.
Yeah, so you both have definitely seen this before, but only Ketis is more intimately familiar with it. This looks a very familiar plant that tends to grow around here, the brambles. They're called barrow nettles. Here, I'll put a note in here for you. It's a bramble bush, like a blackberry, but the thorns from this, the flowers are fine, the vines themselves are fine, the brambles, but the thorns, they tend to grow over graveyards that are not maintained. The thorns carry a very famous deadly toxin, though, that kills within minutes if it's introduced to the bloodstream. Basically, getting pricked by the thorns is deadly. Lindy yanks the brake, and you guys are both aware of this, but only Ketis is familiar with a poison. Lindy yanks the brake handle in a fury, and then leaps up on the driver's seat and jumps out of the car while it's still rolling to a stop. She lands on the vines deftly. She's already running past you toward the blooming vine as the cart slows to a stop. What do you guys do?
I guess run out after.
Yeah, just be careful of the brambles.
Okay. The brambles are, so you guys are on a long vine ramp, basically, that kind of lifts up from the ground that you just came from the edge of the cliff there. At the end of the vines, basically the end of the road, which is where you guys are now, at the end of it is this kind of encasement that she's inside of. And it's so the vines kind of wrapped around her, and then the brambles are wrapped around those. Oops, that's not the right one. That's fine. So anyways, the brambles are around that, and presumably inside as well, because you're seeing where these plumes are. But basically the brambles are going through this whole kind of vine tomb that she's inside of. The snake-like tendrils, though, shoot up from the larger one beneath, attempting to slash her and snare you from all directions. You see Lindy ahead grasping, when her one hand in her left hand, she grasps one of the thinner vines. She pulls it taut and then brings her right hand down through with a vicious chop and severs the vine, causing it to flail around in some kind of apparent pain. Somewhere near Ketis, you had hopped out of the back of this, and as you're trying to chase over there, trying to catch up with Lindy, who's just very deft and fast and is ducking under one vine and jumping over another and just kind of running her way up there. Somewhere a somewhat larger vine's tendril snacks up behind, or beside you rather, and attempts to sweep your feet out from under you. Roll a dex save. Maybe don't roll a 1 this time, though. Just some advice for dice rolling. 1s are usually not good for you.
That's better.
There you go. You're kind of trying to run along, trying to keep up with Lindy as well, and this one tries to sweep under you with just a swish scythe-like motion, basically, and you hop over it with one foot, the other foot's still on the ground, and you land just in time to bring your other one over, and it just had gone under you like a jump rope, and just keep running. You guys make your way through and are slashing at these as they pop up one by one. Just whacking them with a stick, whacking them with your, cutting them in half with your sword. Making your way through these. They're very small. Most of them are very thin. As long as you don't stay put for very long, they don't seem to be too much of a threat. So you guys are kind of carving a swath through these attacking vines. You guys catch up with Lindy. She's been slowed a little bit, but you guys make your way toward the writhing tomb of flowered deadly brambles that are encasing Shay. You see Lindy's face streaked with sweat and tears of rage. She says, "Have to keep going," as she's swinging and trying to, chop at these and smack them with a stick she has, like a nightstick, tonfa. She says, "Have to get her out of there." And just as you guys are approaching the bramble vines, a massive tendril that you're standing on, the whole thing, begins to tremble, and the solid writhing mass of vines that's where Shay is begins to kind of separate a little bit. Roll a dex save, both of you.
Damn it.
You are really rolling shitty tonight. Where they're shaking, you just kind of don't. You were still running and didn't have time to prepare yourself for this. You kind of get knocked down to one knee. You're not, prone, but you're knocked down to one knee. It's gonna take you a little bit of movement to stand back up if you needed to. But Navarre just kind of hops up as the vine starts to shake. You just jump up off of it basically and let the vine settle before you land back down on it, and you're not knocked down. But where the brambles have opened up, you're beginning to see that there's like an encasement basically that she's stuck inside. You're able to see most of the viper within there. She's still wrapped up in these tangling vines. Her skin looks ashen though. Her face is slack and expressionless. Her skin is turning a dark gray. In various places, her flesh has split open, and flowering vines have begun growing out of them that are twisting amongst the deadly barrow nettle branches, or brambles, that are surrounding her. Both of you roll a wisdom check, just a flat wisdom check.
Alright, and then after that I'm gonna go AFK for a second and go to the bathroom.
We can take a quick break after that, so go ahead and roll your
Alright.
wisdom checks.
Wisdom check.
Nice. You both actually recognize this look. So how she looks is familiar because you just saw it, I think it was about a week ago, where you saw the guy in Phandalin with the Firestorm cloak. This is the kind of look he had. His skin was ashen and gray, and where his was splitting open with fire, hers is splitting open with these plants and vines that are growing out of it, and these little flowering vines. But the look on her face looks familiar. It looks just deadpan and not there, like she's not actually in there. And basically, yeah. So it looks familiar because you just saw the man in Phandalin with this same thing. You didn't know that man in Phandalin's name, but of course I'm talking about a Yarno. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. Let's take a quick break.
Alright, dude. Yo.
Yo. Good time to get stuff up.
Okay.
Alright, both back?
Yep.
Cool. Alright. Alright, so, yeah, so just to quick recap of the last part there. Basically, it looks like she's under the control of the vine lash now, is what you're intuiting. So the entombing vine that's surround her, you see another whole massive chunk of this thing just explode up around her. So now she's kind of in the center of this thing where another part of it has grown up above her. That bursts up even higher now, swirls around and aims itself at the three of you before with a loud... Sorry, 1 second. I clear my throat here. With a loud sound like rope tearing, the end of it splits open into a wide thorn-toothed maw, like some gargantuan plant snake. I've got a visual aid for you guys. About like that. Pardon my shitty photoshopping skills. Arrow. Here, I'll draw an arrow in the middle where you guys are. I think. Maybe I won't. I'm trying to... Oh, do I have it locked? Yeah, I got it locked. 1 second. So you guys are about there where I just put that arrow. So this massive, I mean, it's bigger than all of you. There's you know, this maw of teeth are made up of thorns, and it's just this massive kind of snake-like vine that's up in front of you. You can see the arrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it snakes itself up around in a big kind of circle around you, and then looks down towards you. Looks like it's about to attack. Go ahead and roll initiative. If it wasn't clear, this is boss fight time.
Seriously?
What? Your shit rolls? why fix it now? Might as well just keep going. Okay. And now you've infected Becky with your bad luck. Alright, we will...
It's,
Go ahead.
it's not on the combat tracker yet.
There we go. Let me drop it in for
And
you.
is Lindy with us or not?
Yeah, she is. She is first,
Okay.
actually. So she sees this. You see her mouth just run agape with this. She's still not. You're both about probably 20 feet back from where Shay is still wrapped up in these brambles, and then this thing is now above you, snapping, aiming down to snap down at you guys to keep you from getting to Lindy, or to keep you from getting to Shay, rather. She goes first. She is going to use Flurry of Blows. So she just swings out over and over and over again, just an uppercut, and then a kick with her left foot, and then a knee with her right, and then another jab with her left, just swinging at this thing over and over and over again, just in a rage at this monstrous vine tendril. She shouts, "You can't have her!" as she's swinging at this thing. Let me roll her damage. She keeps punching into the kind of trunk of this thing. The mouth is still up above and isn't around in an angle that it could try to snap at her. But she just swings at this thing over and over and over again. It doesn't look like her punches and kicks are having that much of an effect on it. It's resistant to bludgeoning. It is Skeeta's turn.
Okay. Puts my shield up.
Okay.
And then I'm going to... Where is it? Hit it with Crow's Mark. So do I try to drop the first effect on it first to see if it works?
Let me bring it up. I don't think there's any chance to fail. I think you can just do it.
Okay.
First level, curse on somebody. Bonus action, you choose what creature you see within 30 feet of you. Target is cursed for 1 minute. There's no chance for you to fail. So what you're going to do is grab the effect, the first one that says Crow's Mark Cursed, and just drop it on him in the combat tracker.
Okay.
and it's on him for 1 minute, which means 10 rounds, because each round is 6 seconds. So for 10 rounds, it's on him. The curse ends if the target dies, or if you die, or if you're knocked out. But until you gain automatic damage, so anytime you're going to be damaging this thing, you're going to hit the effect, the second effect there, where it says Crow's Mark damage. You're going to click that before you do your damage, and it'll automatically apply it for you.
Okay.
And then second, any attacks you make, if you roll a 19, which of course won't happen for you because you've been rolling shitty all night, so 19s and 20s aren't going to matter, but otherwise you would get crits on 19s against this target. And if it dies while it's still cursed, you get 11 HP healed, it looks like. Makes sense?
Alright.
Okay, go ahead and mark off
Sounds
your use
good.
of it. You get that. That was your bonus action, but you get to use that once every short rest, I think it is. Alright,
Yeah,
so
I think it said short or long. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Right, so that's on him, and you still have your action. What are you doing?
Alright, now I'm going to see if I can actually hit him.
There
Probably
are
not.
multiple tendrils around it as well, and it's all one being essentially. So think of it like the Octomom fight.
Yeah.
Octomam, hitting any of it is still going to hurt it. It just has a shit ton of HPs.
Okay. So I guess
Although
I'll just go
Wendy
after.
did pretty good already. So well, she did a strong hit on it. It's still got a long ways to go.
Yeah, then I'll just try to get at one of those, tendrils that's vines that's flailing around.
So as you see this giant mouth up there, kind of snapping and snapping over and over again, like maybe trying to decide which one of you it's going to try to bite at, you do see one of its kind of arms, probably a good 1.5 foot around, snake up with a kind of a clubbing end of it with little sharp thorns sticking out of the tip of it. It looks like it's about to swing at you. That is within about 5 feet. So you can go ahead and
Gonna
swing
hit
it at
that
it
one.
too. Okay. And hits.
Sweet.
You hack into this chunk of it that is a good thick, like tree trunk size almost, like think of it like telephone pole size diameter, and you swing into it with your shield up above you just in case, raining spores or some shit, and it hacks in almost halfway through this thing in one quick swipe. You're gonna take a second chop.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Did it seem resistant to it?
Actually, it seemed like it cut through it better than most things. So
Okay.
it's resistant to bludgeoning, but it's weak to slash.
Cool.
Vulnerable to
Okay.
slash. But the second
I'm
one,
guessing
though,
that did not hit
yeah,
it.
you try to bring it around, and this time it's kind of wailed away. So kind of where you hacked it in half, the top part of it fell off to one side like a tree would when you chop it, and it kind of fell out of your swing. So you missed with the second swing.
Okay.
But if your turn.
My bonus action is already used.
Yep.
So yeah, because I already used my bonus action. So
Okay, Navarro's turn. Oh, heat metal. Let me take that off. You technically still have it. You're still concentrating on it. So if you want to heat this thing, there isn't much metal in it, unfortunately. You could heat the car, and maybe the car will melt through it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Alright, so I'm gonna do Flame Arrow.
Okay. And we made that a bonus action for you, so you can still take a shot if you want to.
Alright. And I'm gonna aim for the big part of it.
The mouth.
Yeah, up that way.
All right. Go ahead and take a shot.
Nice, Ed.
So hopefully that looks like that bad luck didn't catch.
Yeah, I guess not.
You mumble the words, you touch the quiver, and the arrows start to light up, and you kind of bring it out, take the shot, and it just sails up straight through, and it looks like not only did it hit the mouth, but it actually just went straight through and out the top, like it just like it melted its way through, basically. Looks like it's actually vulnerable to fire as well. So go ahead and roll your damage.
Damage or the effect?
Oh, you're actually supposed to use the melee part of that anyways, which wouldn't matter. I think it's still the same numbers. Okay, so do this. Go to. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. I was looking at Flame Blade. Where is Flame Arrows? There they are. All right. So it's actually two parts of this. What you do in this case is kind of like Ben's thing he just did with his curse or with sneak attack and stuff. You're going to click the first effect, the one that says damage 1d6 fire, and then you're going to roll your damage, the same way that you normally would for your bow. And basically what it does is it's going to do the regular bow damage plus 1d6, and then it's going to double all of it all of the dice because it's vulnerable to it. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, it just sails through the top of this thing, and the mouth roars. If a plant could, it sounds like rope being ried together and maybe ripped in pieces, and the head kind of snaps around and it jostles its head back and forth. And then it is going to, after that attack, is going to turn its big toothy, the teeth of this thing are really just thorns. They're just giant bramble thorns, and try to snap down on you and bite you. There's really no getting out of range of this thing, by the way. So, I mean, you wouldn't be able to hurt it anymore if you were out of range. That's why I didn't bother with a map or anything, because there's not a lot of tactical placement to do here. But
And
snaps down
hit
at you.
me?
No, actually, Becky.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it snaps down on Ivara, and you feel the one tooth really only, because the mouth is so big that the teeth are kind of widely spaced. So it kind of snaps down and bites down on you, but only one of these thorns just stabs into your stomach. And you take... not that bad. Okay, so you take only 12 points of damage, but you feel like there was something in there, like maybe some kind of a poison inside of this bite. But where it jabbed in, it looks like you're kind of hopped out of the way enough that maybe you didn't get injected with it. Because there was definitely like a sting to that bite, but it doesn't look like it's taken effect. Your concentration save was higher than its DC. Its DC is 10, you rolled a 14.
Okay.
And then it is going to throw, while Ketis is standing there, there's another vine that just snaps up behind him and tries to whip itself around him to ensnare Ketis.
Can I parry that?
Yeah, the vines, it's just covered, this is a bramble vine, just covered in these thorns, and it just rips into you all over your legs. You can deflect some of it with your shield or with your sword or whatever to take some of the damage off. Go ahead. It did 15 damage to you, so whatever you parry off of that. All right, so you only took, let's see, you took 7 then. And it is trying to grapple you, so you're going to roll a dex save, and you have to make a 16 or be restrained.
Nope.
And you did not, so you geez. So all through almost this entire campaign, you guys have been, my NPCs always roll shitty, and you guys always rolled great. So you picked the boss fight to be the time when you decided to start rolling crappy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that means you are restrained. Next turn, when it is your turn again, or somebody cuts these off of you, but otherwise on your next turn, you'll need to roll a DC 15 or higher. 13 or higher on a strength check to break yourself free.
All right.
That's it for the Vine Lash's turn. Lindy's turn. She is going to she'll do another key point to take another flurry of blows. That's not how that works. I was thinking that would make 4 attacks, but it doesn't have to roll them individually. So the first one was a 12, which would do 15. No, okay. So the first one misses. Second swing hits. Third hits. No, sorry, third misses. Yeah, okay, right. And she just keeps trying to lay into this thing. She's trying to make her way towards the encasement that Shay is still stuck inside, and just swinging out at every vine that's getting in her way. She misses one, hits the next one, runs up to the next, and just punches it straight into the bottom of it. Her fist actually sinks in through this vine, and she yanks it out, and there's just this kind of spray of viscous liquid, of green viscous liquid, of plant guts. That comes spraying out, and she tries to jump kick another one as she's running over it, but misses it and just lands on her feet definitely and keeps running towards where Shay is. Your turn, Ketis.
Damn it. Alright, strength check, right?
Yep.
See if I can get out.
Yep. Sorry, 13.
Nope.
Not with that. You do have, that takes your action, you do have a bonus action.
Alright, I guess that's about it. I can't do much when I'm restrained anyway, so.
Alright, Lindy shouts over her shoulder. She says, please, just be careful, don't hurt her. This isn't her. Navarro's turn.
Alright, now for concentration, if I cast another spell, I lose that concentration, right?
No. If you so a spell that's not concentration based, you can cast as many as you want, as long as you have spell slots. It's just specifically concentration based spells. So if you tried to cast like Sleet Storm or Protection from Energy, or just two that I see right now, or Conjure Animals, Call Lightning, those are all concentration based. So you can only have one of those. But otherwise, you can cast any other spell and still keep your flame arrows. You marking off your spell slots when you cast them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I'm going to use Protect from Poison them because it says that if, what is it, you touch a creature, if it is poison. Oh, never mind. That's wrong. Okay, I thought that was something else.
Yeah, it doesn't, the wording, the protection is probably a bad name for that. It's more, it looks like it neutralizes poison that's already affecting them.
Yeah, alright, so that's still on. Alright, so I guess I'll just keep hitting this one.
Okay.
Aim for same general.
Aim for the mouth.
Oh,
Yeah, you aim up and try to take the shot, but the head is still snapping around after it just bit you, and the arrow just goes wide, doesn't come anywhere near it. Any bonus actions?
You heal yourself.
yeah. Alright, let's see. Where's my level 1?
First level healing word?
Yeah, if I can find it. Here we go.
Okay, go ahead and mark off your spell slot. Ah, the shitty rolls are starting to get you.
Dang it. See, it's all your fault.
Okay. The Vine Lash is going to, let's see, it's going to grab another series of vines actually snap up around Ivara this time because it sees that Ketis is still already restrained. A series of vines that actually make a wall kind of surrounding you, or trying to anyway, is going to try to engulf. Oops, I disrupted on itself. Hang on. There we go. Okay. It is going to try to snap these around Nivara. Try to restrain both of you, and it hits with a 29. Shit. It's going to be pretty hard to, yeah, I mean, it has a plus 10 to hit, so I mean, it's going to be, you know, hard to avoid hits from this thing, for sure. But that's going to hurt pretty bad. You are restrained right now. If you don't get out of it on your next turn, you're going to take 66 poison damage. As this thing is wrapped around you, it hasn't you know, sunk the thorns in yet, but basically you're restrained from that now. Sorry, I didn't make you roll the dex save. Yeah, roll a dex save. You got to beat a 13. Never mind. Okay. So the vines try to snap up around you, and you just definitely hop up on top of the first vine and jump over it, and knock you and jump yourself over, and then kind of step away. You're about 10 feet away from that collection of vines. That's it for that attack, and then it's going to try to snap down to bite Ketis this time now that he's restrained.
I'm assuming I can't do any maneuvers since I'm stuck, right?
You're restrained, and you would have disadvantage on the dex save because you're restrained, because you can't jump out of the way or whatever. So it definitely hits, and you feel another of these. Well, first one for you, but these teeth sneak in and bites into you. You take 15 damage. That's it for its turn. It is Lindy's turn. She is still running and trying to. She's only going to do 2, just her main attack and then her bonus. Not using a key point, but she does hit with her offhand punch. She punches herself, or punches a fist through another vine, splitting it in half, and just keeps charging. Ketis' turn.
All right. Now let's see. Really? You know what? I'm using my inspiration this time.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Damn it.
Yeah. You guys,
That's
there you
it.
go, finally. So you think back to kind of the giddy excitement that you guys were having, or at least that Lindy was having. You guys might have been bored, I don't know, through the race, and kind of how much fun she was having with it, and just kind of thinking of that, and you've got to help her, you know, get Shay out of there. You kind of grab the sword that you still had in your hand and just carve through the kind of collection of vines that was surrounding you and pull it back up, so you're no longer restrained. Let me take that off.
Sweet.
All right, that was your action to do that, so bonus action.
You know what? I better heal a little bit. What was it? A
A
1?
1. You rolled a 1.
Okay.
Yeah, with a 2 modifier, so you healed 3 HPs. All right, never
Kick ass.
Alrighty. Wrong one. Go back to here. That up, so let's give this another try.
And so you pull another one out, and the vine lash actually snaps its head away where you were just about to release the arrow. So I mean, it would have missed basically, but you kind of were waiting for that, and you kind of had seen the pattern that this was moving, that it was going to snap its head back again. You let the arrow go just in time as the head is out of the way, but you were planning for where it was going to be, not where it was. And the arrow sneaks straight through it again, just like it did the first shot. Go ahead and roll your damage. Go. Yeah, and it looks... yeah, that's right. It doubles the dice, not the... Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. It's resistant to piercing, but it's vulnerable to fire. So the fire damage was doubled, but the piercing was halved. That's what happened. So,
Oh.
yeah, but still, it burns another hole in it and is roaring in its vine-like way. But if your turn. Bonus action.
Yeah, we're gonna heal.
Okay. Okay. And it's in a rage, going to lash out with 2 of its kind of club-like armed vines, and try to swing them down at both of you.
I'll parry if it hits.
Okay. One at Ketis. Actually misses you. You see it coming, and you just throw your shield up in time, and it actually knocks you back almost just from the force of this thing because it's so big. It just spins you around, basically, but you don't take any damage. It basically just clacks against your shield and spins you around from the force. And then the arm swings at Nivara.
Can I?
Hits.
Never mind.
You can't parry Nivara's, no.
No, I was going to say if I can repose, but it's fine.
Yeah, you can, yeah. It missed, or it missed, so you can repose, yeah.
Is it too late?
No.
Okay.
It's still part of its
Let's do
turn.
that.
You're fine. Okay, go ahead
There
and,
we go. Okay.
yeah, so click the damage thing for riposte. And that'll put the bonus damage on you, and then roll your swing. It has to be one-handed because you have your shield up.
Okay, so the effect first and then swing?
Yeah, yep, exactly. Hit the effect, and then your regular swing.
Okay,
And mark off your riposte use if you didn't already.
I did.
Okay.
And now just the damage, or do I
Yep.
need to see if it hits?
No, you... Oh, shit, sorry. Yeah, you do. Roll, yeah, one-handed swing.
Okay.
Yeah, it hits.
Okay. Is the effect still on there? From the...
Yes, riposte 1d, damage 1d6. You can see it in the combat tracker.
Okay.
In the combat tracker, you should
Yep.
see effects shield raised.
Yep, I
AC
see it.
2. Yeah, there you go. And then it'll
Yeah.
take it off automatically when you rolled it.
Sweet.
And so this kind of huge arm, this one's massive. It's probably 4.5 feet or so in diameter. That just tried to club at you. You kind of throw your shield up and it spins you around. But as it spins you around, you just bring your sword up and a stab at this vine that's above you, and stabs straight through the vine, and then yank it to the right so that it cuts this big open gash. So that you're now got this goop, this plant blood just raining down on you from above as you've ripped this massive gash through through the length of this vine, and pull your blade out of it at the end. And as for the clubbing on Nivara, this one you were focused up at the mouth of this thing and weren't really paying attention to this one coming in from the side. It just clubs you straight into the ribs. You take 15 damage, and where the thorns of this thing would have bit into you, it looks like you've kind of, you weren't hit by the thorn, you were just hit by the blunt edge of it, basically, so you didn't get poisoned. That's it for its turn. Lindy is still ripping through vines. Just 2. Her main hit misses, and her bonus also misses. Kita's turn.
Okay. Can I tell the general condition of this thing, like looking at it, how close to dead is it? Because this is, whatever, I can't remember the fucking name, right? She did turn into this thing, so we're trying not to kill her, right? All the way to
You know what? Roll an insight check, both of you,
Okay.
so you can kind of get an idea of the nature of this thing. You are having trouble. Ketis is having trouble identifying what is Shay and what isn't, because she is. So you look over basically, and you see the kind of opening where Shay is now inside of this thing, and it looks like she's so entwisted amongst this thing that in your opinion, this whole thing is her. You're not really sure where it ends and she begins.
Okay.
Because of how, like, there's no legs. Her legs are inside the vines, like her, she's part vine, and then, her arms and face, like, she's not really in there. She's not moving. She looks like she's just a corpse almost inside of this thing. But there's so much of it that has grown into her, where there's splits in her skin of her arms and her shoulders, where the vines have grown out to it and are just twisted into this thing. So that's where you feel about that's what you think is happening here. Navarre, with some more familiarity with nature, and knowing how, not necessarily this specific thing, because this thing doesn't exist in nature. This isn't something you would normally see, but just with your normal kind of growing up around plant life and living in them for so long, you are quite sure that this whole thing is not her, that she is still herself there. It's just a matter of trying to get her out of it, and hurting the rest of this thing isn't necessarily hurting her, as long as you're not throwing a fireball where she is, where her body is, if that makes sense. Okay. So now, keep in mind, now Ketis can't act on that knowledge, and Navarre couldn't act on Ketis' knowledge, so you wouldn't meta that, but that's basically how the two of you feel about this situation. You just don't feel the same thing, is all. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, and so if I was just to look at the thing, since I wouldn't know as much as she does, would I be able to tell how close to death the whole plant thing is?
That would be a separate check, but instead of slowing it down, I'll just tell you, just by looking at it, it looks like, especially with that gash that you just cut into that vine that was overhead, it's looking pretty bad. Like it's a little over halfway.
Okay. All right. Then
you've got some cool options in your actions if you wanted to look those.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah,
Slashing's fine too. Whatever's fun for you.
Oh, I need to use that next time I try to. Oh, that's a good idea.
Have you used any action or anything yet? I don't think you have you?
Mm-mm. No, I was just trying to check the thing out because I didn't want to. Ketis wouldn't know that this thing wasn't her necessarily from what you said, so
yeah.
He wouldn't want to try to kill it. But if it doesn't look like it's too close to death, then I'm going to see if I can hit it with a blight.
Okay.
Look.
Let's see. It rolled it rolled an 11 plus 4 is 15. Your DC is your DC right? That seems low. No, that's right. Oh, is your charisma modifier not very high? Let me make sure the math is right on this real quick. Because your DC says it's 14, which means it would have succeeded, but that doesn't look. Oh, yeah, I guess your charisma's only 16. Well, totally up to you what you want to do, but you might consider, taking an ASI on your next opportunity to get that charisma up to 18, because that would give you. Basically, DC seems really low for two reasons. One, your proficiency isn't all that high yet; it's only 3 for both of you. That'll change when you guys level up, of course. But your charisma, your important stat for all of your attacks and spells and everything is charisma now.
Okay.
And that modifier is only 3. So if you can get that up to a 4 or a 5, which means getting your charisma to 18 or 20, then that would have made this attack work. But it didn't. The attack still does, but it succeeded on its save, so it takes half damage from the necrotic. Never mind. Okay, I said all that. All of that would have been true on any target except a plant, because it's a plant. It does max damage automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But either way, that's still I need to get my charisma.
You still would want to, yes. Yeah.
I think I'm going to do that on my next time.
Yeah, because charisma for you charisma's used for everything for you. So even your attack swings with your sword are still charisma based. They're not because of Hexblade specifically, the new class that you chose. So anyway, normally they would just be strength, and your strength is higher. But for this particular case, anyways, for Hexblade, it would be your charisma. So anyway, it'll do 64 damage automatically, because Blight will automatically do max damage versus plants, which is. Right, well, there you go. 1 second. It's Okay, we'll just in narrative here. You reach, you kind of look up and you see this thing just writhing around, and it's bit you, it's bitten Ivar. You've gotten clubbed. You've had to, just this has been a tough fight already. It's been short. You haven't had been in here a long time, but looking around, you know that some of the power that Crow has invested you with is intended specifically for this kind of situation, almost, in that you can force death and decay on something like this, and this being a, let's call it a lower plant form, or a lower life form rather, and just in being a plant, although this is somewhat animated and a little more powerful. You kind of expect that this is probably going to do something serious, so where are you aiming it?
At the, I'd probably just would have aimed at the head of the thing, if it's still whatever of it's left,
Okay. Yeah, it's still there. It's got some fiery holes in it that Ivar shot through. So you kind of look up, and with your shield still on that same arm, you kind of raise your hand up and just point it out. You wouldn't be able to use your shield for this round, by the way, because you're using your action on your left hand. Meaning you wouldn't be able to raise it again after this, is all. So the next round you'll be at 16 AC instead of 18. That's all.
Okay.
But you raise your hand up and kind of avert your eyes, because the last time you did this, there was a bright flash, just because of where you were. But anyways, you point out towards this kind of flailing, chomping head, and release just this crackling beam of black and green roiling energy that just looks diseased. It looks like disease liquefied almost. That sprays out up towards this thing, and it's just almost like a super soaker. It just sprays across this thing, and where it hits, it looks almost liquidy. It starts to spread across the head of this vine, and it just begins to melt through it, and you see just diseased plant flesh start to just drip off of this, where the bottom jaw begins to separate, and the lower jaw, of course, but the part of this plant that looks like a jaw, is beginning to get weaker and weaker, and then half of it just with a loud pop, just half of the where the mandible connects, just separates, and the jaw is now just hanging and swinging with this kind of massive open mouth, this grotesque scene of this plant thing, until the other part begins to eat through, almost like being eaten by aphids or something. And it separates, and this massive toothy lower jaw just falls down the 15 feet until it splashes with like a liquidy, disgusting mess against the vine, and is just resting there. And the top of it is just roaring, and is kind of with only the top jaw remaining, essentially, of this thing. It still has its teeth on it, but is flailing around and instantly looking directly at you, like it's going to try to just tear you apart with whatever is left in it. It's still alive, but barely. Okay. Your turn.
Let's see.
I'll mark off your spell too.
Yes.
I think the next version, I'm not sure, but I think the next version is supposed to have an option to automatically mark off spells when you hit the cast button, like to mark off slots.
That's cool.
Yeah, that'll be handy. There's a ton of cool things coming, like the dynamic lighting and some weather effects and stuff like that. Stuff that I'm really excited about.
And that was just, I still have a bonus action, right?
Yep.
That was just my main
Yeah, that was just your action.
Okay. And just to be safe, what's going to happen? Heal up a little bit.
Okay.
I need to remember to brew some more potions on the next long rest.
Well,
we're in town again.
yeah, you're gonna. You might have materials. I'm not sure, but yeah, next time you're back at the college, you can do it there. But if your turn.
Yes.
All right, Becky, what are we doing?
Alright, well, we're gonna aim for its head again.
Its poor top jaw. You didn't feel bad enough murdering poor halflings, now you gotta kill a plant too? What kind of druid goes around killing halfling and plants?
Oh, man.
You release another shot, and this one goes sailing through, and you end up hitting almost the exact same spot, but you kind of timed it on purpose to not hit the same spot, because that's just a hole. So the arrow just would go straight through that hole, and it sinks straight through. And this time, it gets stuck there. The fire is just catching, on fire. The arrow rather is just on fire and stuck into this plant's mouth, just the inside of the upper jaw, with the bottom jaw missing, and stuck in there. Go ahead and roll put your effect on, and then roll your damage. Where this catches in, it looks like the blight spell has dried out the plant so much that it almost instantly starts just to engulf, and now it's just this roaring as the fire catches it, like dropping a lit match into dry brush. It just engulfs the whole head of this thing, and now it's just this giant flaming torch wailing its head back and forth and screaming as it's in its death throes. back and forth and back and forth. Go ahead on Ketis and throw your heal from the 11 HPs. It was still cursed when it died.
Oh yeah, nice.
So as this is all going on there, it's still the rest of it is still there. It's just that giant vine head basically is not attacking you any longer. So your attention focused on the vine lash. You didn't even notice that Lindy sneak up specifically beside Ketis. She kind of sneaks up next to you. She snaps another tendril in half, throwing it to the ground with a huff as she does. You look over and see that the vines encasing Shay have been mostly torn away, that she's mostly gotten the stuff around her torn away, leaving only the bramble of barrow nettles. She says to you, quietly to you, as quiet as you can be in the middle of a big battle here, she says, I have an idea. She says, kneel down. And she kind of motions you down to her. Remember, she's short. She's just a little halfling. Okay. Hang on, that didn't drop in the box. Whoops. Roll a... Yeah, that's not that high. Roll a perception on Ketis. Roll it in the dice tower. Okay. Right. So you kneel down by her, and she's trying to get close to be able to tell you what her plan is, because it's just so loud she doesn't want to shout up, and she's already still hoarse from all the screaming she did at the during the race. She throws her arms around you in a big hug. She whispers, "Thanks for everything," to you, and then she backs up. And as she's backing up, you notice that she's no longer wearing her safety harness from the race, and in fact she's snapped that on you. Her dirt-covered face splits to the ever-present smile that you've gotten so used to seeing these last few days. Her eyes are welling up with tears. She says, she kind of points over towards Naivara. She says, "Tell her for me too, okay?"
All right, will do.
Hang on 1 second.
Just tell her, all right, will do, when she's going to sacrifice herself.
I guess so. Yeah. just die. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. And before you can respond, she turns and charges headfirst into the brambles that are surrounding the ashen-faced Shay. You see, this is all happening very fast, of course, but you see tiny beads of blood forming on Lindy's skin where the barrow nettles have scratched her as she's jumped in. But Lindy pays them no mind and spreads her arms wide at her sides, and then, before bringing her hands together, an explosive thunderclap that instantly sends both of you reeling, knocked away by a blast wave of ki energy. Instantly, your harnesses deploy, expanding pillowy balloons around you as you're shot back off towards the cliff's edge, just kind of rocketing in these giant balloons. You for just a brief moment, you lose consciousness from the sudden force. You both come to, laying flat on the hard pan dirt, a few feet apart, close by each other. There's a pile of deflated balloons strapped to your back underneath both of you. About 20 feet away, you see Shay, and she's better. It looks like the vine, maybe she was able to control it for a moment or something and snake it back around and drop them both on the cliff's edge by you. But Shay looks better. Her skin is not that weird mottled gray that it was just a few minutes ago, but she's holding Lindy in her arms, who looks bad. She looks really, really rough. Her skin is starting to turn black and is beginning to split in places where the brambles scratched her with their venom. The veins of her arms are bulging, and you can tell the poison is sort of climbing up her veins. Not far in the distance, you're hearing the sound of sirens coming this way, in the direction of the finish line just outside of Cragshade, as the militia are rushing into whatever emergency is, or trying to maybe catch the racers or whatever emergency that the Viper has caused this time. You hear Lindy cough weakly, and her eyes look toward the incoming siren sounds and back up at Shay. She says, "Ooh, you're in trouble." And Shay laughs and says, This whole time for this fucking whip, I'm such a fool." And Lindy, sorry, the dogs are trying to roll initiative. Lindy forces out a reply. She says, "Haha, yeah." Shay looks over at you. You can see her stifling kind of a sorrow frown. that would likely break her composure. She says, "The Barrow Nettles, there's nothing we can do for her." But she looks away to the dirt under Lindy's feet for a half second. She says, "I mean, there's the lash, and there's one thing." And she leans down to Lindy and she whispers something in her ear. Lindy's face kind of lights up again. It was kind of a warm look, a big welcoming smile. She says, so Shay had whispered something to her, and Lindy says, yeah, I think that'd be all right. Shay turns to face you guys. She says, I want to thank you for everything you've done, but I have one last request of you.
Okay.
She says,
What is it?
She says, while it had me, and she looks to the coiled vine whip that is attached to her belt. She says, I could feel others out there. I know that there are more things like this one out there, and I could feel that you were coming to take it from me. And so, but she says, Lindy trusts you, so I'm going to do the same. Don't let this happen again. And find these things and break them, whatever it takes. Just don't let this happen again, please.
That's what we do.
And with that, she smiles back down at Lindy. Whoops. And reaches a free hand down to touch the vine lash. There's a blinding flash of warm, pale green light that erupts around you as you're just instantly surrounded by this small whirlwind of thousands of tiny pink petals. And where Shay and Lindy just were, about 20 feet away from you, there now stands this, as the light disappears, you're able to see just through it that there's now stands this beautiful towering cherry tree in full blossom, sending these pink petals just whirlwinding around you. And at its base, you see these roots and knots that are forming two vaguely humanoid shapes. One is a smaller figure, lying in the embrace of a taller figure. And on the ground in front of them, you see a mongoose mask and a snake mask. And tucked neatly between the two of them, you see the vine lash. What do you guys do?
Time to go get that right now.
Yeah.
Put it in our bags. In the bag. Or doors on here.
You stuff it in your bag?
Yeah.
Okay.
Close it. Bag.
So you grab it, and this has been the same kind of feeling you've had, I guess, in that the lack of feeling almost with these important things that you've picked up, this being the fourth, where you feel like the immensity of the situation and how much damage these things cause. It seems like there should be some feeling to grasping these, but you don't really feel much of anything. It feels like it's just a chunk of vine, the same ones you were just hacking through a bit ago. But the sirens are getting louder and louder. You look over and see that there's a wagon coming into view from with another one close behind that are just coming out of the rocky area. Driving the wagon that's in the lead is Captain Ed, who upon seeing you, you see him from here just because it's basically quiet. Everything is all of a sudden silent in a very strange moment. But you see Captain Ed, who when he sees you shouts back at the other cart. The other wagon, rather. He says, boys, I've got this, head on back, before he quickly races over towards you with his cart. His wagon, rather. He pulls up beside you, giving the newly formed cherry blossom tree a wide look. He says, look, we gotta hurry. He says, hop in back, I'll get you guys to safety before they start asking questions about where the racers went. You hop in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys jump in the back of the wagon. And he kind of whips the horses and kind of yanks it around, trying to move quickly to keep going. The wagon speeds off back through the orange redstone pillars. You actually pass the other car on the way, with you in the back of it. The other wagon that was there, back through the orange redstone pillars and back to Cragshade. And then he kind of brings it to a stop outside the militia office that Lindy had bypassed earlier when she decided to trust you to, and take you to the garage instead. She was supposed to take you to the office. She took you to her garage instead. Ed hops out. He leads you guys inside. The building looks to be empty except for the three of you. So the other militia officers are probably out chasing down the other kart racers. Ed barks to you. He says, "Well, so for starters, where's Sergeant Lindy?"
Sorry, what do you ask about, Lindy? You broke up there.
Yeah, you cut out.
He says, "So for starters, where is Sergeant Lindy?"
She had to sacrifice herself to save the day. So save Shay.
He says, "Well, I mean that sounds about like her." And he definitely looks a little dour. I mean, he kind of lowers his head a bit. He says, "I almost expected as much, just with it seems like there was something going on between the two of them, and well, it'll be a tough loss." He says, "Did you secure the Eaterling?"
Mm-hmm.
He kind of shakes his head. He's not looking at either one of you. I mean, you haven't spent much time with him, but he seems out of sorts a little bit. Maybe it's, the loss of Lindy. Is he still trying to figure that out? But he says, he kind of shakes his head, looking down at his feet almost, not looking at either of you. He says, I've got to ask. I mean, from what I've been told, you guys have retrieved 4 of these things now, right?
I didn't catch that.
You cut out. Sorry.
All right. Are you guys go to your Discord real quick? Are you both green?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll leave this one up for a second. Maybe it'll. I don't want it to cut out too much here, or by the end of the session here. But he says, so. I've got to ask. I mean, from what I've been told, you guys have retrieved 4 of these things now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He says, how do you resist the thrall of them,
It's never been an issue for us. That's actually why they want us on the team. Well, one of the main reasons. So.
He says, that's interesting, And he's kind of scratching at his chin where a beard would be. He says, well, and he turns away from you and walks over towards his desk. You hear glass clinking, and as he brings out a decanter and a thick brown liquid, a decanter with thick brown liquid rather, and a trio of small highball glasses. He sets them on the desk. He pours a couple of fingers of this alcohol into each. He says, we should drink a toast. Then he hands each of you a glass. Roll up perception. In the tower. He hands first the glass to Nivara, and I mean, you're looking down at it. He looks like he's, taking this hard maybe, so you're not really exactly looking straight at him or in his eyes or anything. He looks like he's trying not to look in your guys's, so maybe you're, out of respect trying to give him a little bit of space there or something, but you don't notice too much there. But Ketis, though, when he hands you the glass, you are looking at him, and he hands it to you, and you notice his hand is shaking a little bit when the glass when he passes it over to you. He kind of stands back, and he's got his own glass. He lifts it off of the table there, off of his desk, and he raises it up, kind of up high like a toast. He says, to Sergeant Lindy, the bravest officer I've ever had the pleasure of working with. What do you guys do?
All right.
Yeah.
So, Lindy.
So you can raise your glasses up. Roll a perception, both of you. This time, you both kind of feel something's off here. Something doesn't seem quite right. The glass doesn't smell quite right, and you get kind of a suspicious feeling from him. What do you guys do?
Oh, I know. Hang on. Where is it? Somewhere down here. I should have.
Shit, you were almost out of arrows, damn.
I know. I almost used everything.
Yeah.
Where is it? I thought there was like a detect poison or something on here.
I think there is.
There is.
Yeah.
There it is. Level 1. All right. Well, we're gonna use that thing.
Okay. Let me look at it real quick. Is that VSM? Yep, VSM. Cool. All right. So you go ahead and mark off your spell slot for it and hit the cast on it too. There you go. It's a concentration, so you'd technically have it up for a little while, but I didn't have a regular cast on there. I'll put that in for you. Just there you go. So that log, everything that shows up in the chat log is what shows up. Oh, well, I rolled it for you, so you didn't see it. But anyways, it's fine. Yeah. So you look up at your glass and you murmur something just under your breath. You're trying to be careful about this because you don't necessarily want to offend him. You're just not quite comfortable in the situation all of a sudden. But you look up at the glass and you mumble it, and you kind of with your hand, but with your free hand behind your back, you kind of make the gestures necessary to cast the spell, and you start to see a glowing aura. Nobody else sees this, but you do. You see the glass begin to glow with kind of a dark floating mist coming off of it that shouldn't be there. and you look over and you see the same thing glowing in Ketis's glass. He says he starts getting frustrated. He yells, not yells, but he's a little aggressive with this. He says, "Haven't you guys ever toasted before? It's rude not to drink after the toast." He says, "Just fucking drink it already." And at that, you see, do you guys react there at all?
I'll say, you feeling okay there, Ed? I understand that Lindy's gone, but not that big of a deal to have a drink.
As you're about to say this to him, you see kind of a dim red aura. Both of you see this actually begin to glow around Ed, like surrounding him. And he stands up sharply for a second as soon as the aura appears. Just all of a sudden, fully there, I guess you could say. In that, whereas before he wouldn't looking at you and was, shoulder slumped and everything. He immediately stands up and is all of a sudden very very sharply present. All of a sudden, super tense. He immediately flings his glass against the wall. It shatters and splashes alcohol everywhere. He reaches over and grabs Navarra's glass. He flings it similarly. It just crashes against the wall. And then he grabs Ketis's and he just swallows it down. Just one solid gulp. Just swallows down all the liquid in it. And almost immediately, the skin around his mouth begins to darken. His hands grasp around his throat. He drops the glass and he brings both hands up around his throat, almost like he's choking himself. And he begins making choking sounds as if the discoloration, or as the discoloration spreads down his neck. The veins beginning to bulge out and blacken. He falls to his knees, choking and thrashing, clawing at his neck with his fingernails. Half a minute later, he collapses forward on his face, and a few seconds after that, the thrashing stops. The Navarra in the detect poison there, you identified that this was the same poison. This is the barrow nettles poison that he had, put into your drinks. It seems like, but after he falls. As he falls forward, you see a floating figure behind where he had stood. Both of you roll a wisdom check, just a flat wisdom check. You've seen this figure once before in the basement of a mansion in a far-off country. It's human-sized, it's vaguely skeletal, but lacking any corporeality. It's fully ethereal. This floating figure in a gray coat looks up at the both of you with a ghostly gaze. This I don't have the Vox set up, but basically it's very spectral and ghostly sounding. He says, "Are you afraid?"
No.
The apparition holds out a spectral arm, and a curtain of glittering dust falls from it. Images of familiar faces begin to appear in the shimmering curtain. You see the surgeon Jack, and then you see the train caretaker Flog, and then the wizard that destroyed Fandolin, and then Shay, and then finally Captain Ed. He says, "You should be afraid." He says, "This is the true nature of consciousness. The want, the hunger, the unmaking. It consumes everything it touches. It can't be stopped, it can't be changed, it can't be reasoned with. This is the end of everything." And then he says, "This is your first lesson." And then the arm drops, the sand disappears, and then the apparition just vanishes. And that is where we're going to end tonight's session.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, guys. Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was good.
All right, we are going to do your levels. Or do you guys have a... Here, I'll stop that.